Call the meeting to order. Mr. Guston, please lead us in the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we observe a moment of silence, I would like for you to also remember all of the veterans of Pearl Harbor. Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Hastchev, Guston, Zadra, Sferaza, Dorch, Ayazi, Kishel.
Here. All right, we have public comment. Gladys Anderson.
Yes.
Yes, right there, and then introduce yourself for the record, please.
I'm Gladys Anderson, and I just came to comment to the city council today that I would like Erwin and his slut wife to stay out of my hotel, because that's not my parents.
What was that again? I didn't understand you. I'm sorry.
I would like Erwin and his slut wife to stay out of my hotel, because they're not my parents.
Okay, whoever
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you. Mr. Markell, did you have something to say now, sir? Please come up to the microphone, introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, my name. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay. My name is Mark Markell. I'm a concerned Reno resident, and I was involved in a drunk driving crash on October 12th, 22 years ago. But I was a passenger in a vehicle, so I don't want you people to get in the car with a drunk driver. And I have some statistics here for the city of Reno. And I'm sorry, I didn't get prepared. But me and my brother were doing 100 miles an hour, and we rolled 8 times, and I got ejected, and the car landed on my head and put me in a coma for a month, and in the hospital for 6.5 months. And I'm here to warn you people not to get in the car with the drunk driver, especially during this holiday season. And to date, in the city of Reno, there have been, and this is just in the city limits, there have been 695 DUIs, 161 accidents, and start working. Chief, do you know the fatalities? Oh, well, yeah, it's okay. Thank you. And I'm a perfect example of what happens to you if you get in the car with a drunk. What can happen to you if you get in a car with a drunk driver? So please don't. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a good message. Mr. Sam Dene.
Sam Dene, the Encyclopedia of Reno Government. Sam Dene, that's me. Sam Dene is an Air Force Academy graduate and spent many years flying fighters and bombers defending our nation against enemies inside of the border and outside of the border, trying to prevent horrible things like Pearl Harbor disasters. I'm here mainly to talk about the people I call heroes, and I don't use that word very often, heroes, because hero means premeditatedly putting your life into danger, not just something that happens where you maybe accidentally save a life or help somebody, but when you premeditatedly put your life in danger beyond the call of duty. And I'm calling the firemen who saved Reno a couple of weeks ago, I'm calling them heroes. They are real heroes. And it's a shame, I don't want to be negative about it, but it is a shame that so many houses were lost. The fact is that it was lucky that there weren't dozens and dozens more houses lost. But those firemen did such a great job, they saved many, many houses. And you only have to wonder how many more houses would have been saved if you had not laid off all of those firemen a couple of months ago. I'm not trying to be negative about it, but it is a fact. The Reno Gazette regurgitator has been trying to alibi for the fact that you laid off all those people. And it would have made a difference, no matter what anybody wants to say, anybody with logic. I'm not trying to be negative, but anybody with logic has to know it would have made a difference if there had been more firemen, and it would have made a difference if that fire station that was closest to the fire had been open and manned, which it wasn't. So the fact is, I won't even tell you what Mr. Mayor is doing up there while I'm stating these obvious facts. At any rate, that's all I have to say about that. I'm proud of those men and women, and it was a wonderful thing they did. I noticed that you are going to give out probably the most liquor licenses that I've ever seen on one consent agenda today. And I'm hoping that you will tell those people how important it is to make sure that they don't feed alcohol to people and allow them to get intoxicated and go out and cause damage and cause injury to people. As a matter of fact, I wish you would take my offer up and institute a designated driver corps for our city. I think it's a brilliant idea. We should have a designated driver corps. A lot of the money that I see wasted around here should have been spent creating a designated driver corps. Or you can even take the people who get DUIs and order them to be designated drivers for the next year or two. And I know the chief of police over there is looking at me seriously, and he knows exactly what Sam is saying and that he's correct. As I close out, I am very proud of the firemen, and I want to honor Pearl Harbor Day and all of the men and women who helped save America on that day.
Thank you very much. Having no other public comment cards, I'll close the public comment section. Bring it back to the table. Approval of the agenda. Before we do, item E1A4 is pulled. Item E1A, the S-Mart Gas and Convenience Store. Proclamations to Howard Freeman, Pearl Harbor survivor Howard Freeman. We will be presenting a proclamation. Presentation, item L5 will come after the proclamation under presentation. Item D1, presentation by our fire chief. Public hearing, there is none at 12, and at 6 o'clock there's not. There is a redevelopment agency meeting after this. Mr. Guston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very honored that you gave me this proclamation to read because I visited with the gentleman for a few minutes not knowing that he was going to come up. But I want to ask Howard Spreeman to come up, and Rosie. Would you come up too, please? Examples of true heroes, yes. Thank you.
Well,
I had no idea I was going to do this. Hi, Rosie. I don't know if you know this, Mr. Mayor, and people know that there are 17 license plates in the state of Nevada that have on them Pearl Harbor survivors. And these two people here have 2 of those licenses. Howard and Rosie, you have 2 licenses on your cars. So it is my honor to be here with these people, and thank you very much for letting me do this. Whereas 70 years ago, on December 7th, 1941, U.S. service members and civilians awoke on a quiet Sunday morning to a surprise attack on Pearl Harbor by Japanese forces. And whereas more than 3,500 Americans were killed or wounded on the day that President Franklin D. Roosevelt so memorably said would live in infamy. And whereas the images of burning battleships and the grief of lives lost have been forever seared in the American memory, and whereas those who defended Hawaii that fateful morning, employing whatever weapons and tools were available, stand as examples of selfless heroism. And whereas all U.S. service members and veterans who have served before and since the attack on Pearl Harbor deserve praise from a grateful nation. Whereas as a Pearl Harbor survivor and veteran of the U.S. Navy, Howard Spreeman and Rosie represent not only those heroes who defended the United States in their first days of World War II, but represent all U.S. veterans in their bravery and willingness to sacrifice. Now, therefore, on behalf of Robert A. Cashel, Sr., Mayor of the City of Reno, we do hereby proclaim Wednesday, December 7, 2011, as a day to honor Pearl Harbor survivor Howard Spreeman and Rosie, and all veterans of the U.S. Armed Forces in recognition of their courageous contributions to the American saga. As we remember the tragic events of December 7, 1941, and the cataclysm that followed, let us all hope for and support our uniformed men and women as we seek a peaceful future for humankind. Mr. Mayor, thank you for the honor to present this, and now I'd like to present Mr. Howard Spreeman.
I would, instead of going into the day itself, I would like to tell everyone that in the first place, not only December 7th, but the ensuing years since that time, I never expected to be here this time. And I think that the knowledge that I've gained in the 90 years that I've been around, I have discovered the fountain of youth. And that is, last March, I turned 90, and next year, in March, I'll make it 89, and that way I've got 90 more years. Thank you very much, Mayor.
You bet.
We'll come around. Let's walk around there. We'll come down to you. Stay there.
You know, Mr. Mayor, another story that I'm sure Howard has a lot of. Matter of fact, he has written a book that's been published about his life and Pearl Harbor. And he told me the story about 65 years ago, he had come back to San Diego after Pearl Harbor, and he knew Rosie was a wave, and she was in San Diego, but he always wanted to meet her, and it took him 65 years to finally catch up to her in Fernley, Nevada. So now that's why they're together.
Okay, I'd like to ask now for approval of the agenda. Have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Just if we could make a couple modifications for times.
Okay.
L7, if we could hear that shortly after 2 or 2 o'clock.
Okay.
And then also on redevelopment, I wasn't sure with staff, there were some modifications made on B1 for the ballroom facility. I wasn't sure if the city attorney's office has that ready for us to move forward today. So I didn't want people to have to sit around if it wasn't ready.
Tracy Chase, Reno City Attorney's Office. Let me check with our Deputy City Attorney, Mr. Shipman, and I'll get back to you shortly.
Okay. All right. Approval of the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Approval of the minutes, November 9th and November 16th.
Move to approve.
Have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Cash disbursements. Okay.
None for me, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Dortch? None
Move
for
to
you.
approve.
Motion to approve? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Chief, presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, City Manager Klinger, honorable members of the council. For the record, Mike Hernandez, Reno
Turn the
Fire
lights
Chief.
down, please.
This morning, I'd like to discuss, I think it is still morning, I'd like to discuss the call and fire response. But before I do, there was a host of agencies that came together and contributed to the mitigation of that event. The list is too long to present at this time. However, we will be doing a more formal presentation sometime in January. However, I would like to recognize those variety of agencies that came to our assistance, as well as members of the community, several of the casino owners, hotel owners, restaurant owners that stepped up and provided meals and lodging for those victims that were displaced and those victims that were evacuated. A very heartfelt thank you to Chief Pitts and the Reno Police Department. That organization were instrumental in going door to door, house to house, neighborhood to neighborhood, waking up people in the early hours of that morning. As you know, we suffered some significant power losses in certain neighborhoods. People were without power and electricity, without the use of their phones. We had some traffic signal challenges. We had motor vehicle accidents that were impeding emergency response vehicles, and the Reno Police Department worked hand in hand closely with the fire department, and their assistance was invaluable. And the last group I'd like to recognize, and if they'll please stand up, are the investigative team that actually were on scene within hours. These are the investigators that literally put their boots on and walked the back hills of the Mount Rose area to determine where the fire started and basically come to a cause and origin that we currently are working with the ATF and NV Energy to solidify. With that, I'd like to cover the key points of the fire. During the early morning hours of November the 18th, a brush fire started in the southern boundary of the Collin Ranch area, and if you look at the overhead, you'll see a little push pin, and that's where we believe the fire originated from, which is just south of the Collin Ranch neighborhood. The fire grew into a major long-term response effort that lasted through Sunday, November the 20th. The fire was reported at 12:22 a.m. During that time, the city was experiencing 40 to 50 mile an hour sustained winds. Up in the Collin Ranch area, there were reports of 60 to 70 mile an hour gusts. The initial report was reported to the dispatch center at 12:22. Units responded to the Sierra Pine, Pine Haven streets. While responding within the first 2 minutes, the dispatch center received multiple calls, and of course the fire crew responded, seeing a heavy glow in the area. The call was upgraded to a full alarm assignment at 12:24. Within 8 minutes, the first unit arrived at Pine Haven and Sierra Pine and reported a significant brush fire, approximately 30 to 50 acres, burning approximately 3/4 to a mile off-road in the canyon undeveloped area. Within the first hour, mutual aid requests were made, and units were being dispatched from neighboring communities. About that time, the fire had grown to about 200 acres. By Friday evening, approximately 440 firefighters were on the line working to bring the fire under control. At that time, the fire had grown to about 1,000 acres. During that time, we still had winds in excess of 30 to 35 miles an hour, gusting to 40. By late Friday evening, we were able to stop the forward progress of the fire, and I will show council in just a second. We were basically fighting the fire on 3 fronts. We had the Moana Pioneer Lane area. This is the Manzanita Canyon, where we had crews assigned. We had the Skyline, Zalezi Lane, Windy Hill area to our south. We had wind-blown embers that had impacted the Bartley Ranch area to the east of the fire area, as well as significant fire traveling on the southern edge of the Mount Rose area. By Saturday afternoon, weather conditions had changed and allowed for crews to backtrack and begin extinguishing hotspots and rekindles. The fire was 65% contained by Saturday evening. Late Sunday, the fire was 100% contained. In total, 30 homes were completely lost. Several dozen homes received anywhere from light to moderate damage, and a total of 1,946 acres were consumed. One firefighter received first and second degree burns to his face and was treated and later released. Approximately 24 firefighters were treated for minor injuries, primarily wind-blown dust and dust embers to their eyes. They were treated on scene. No one was transported to the hospital. What I'd like to do is show council how the fire progressed, and I'll just click this and kind of talk you through it. But as the fire, this is an overview of the entire fire origin. You can see the Collin Ranch subdivision to the top of the screen. As the fire was reported, our primary concern became containing the fire to the east side of the McCarran Loop. This is the Manzanita, what I'm calling the Manzanita Canyon. Skyline's right over here. The fire had also extended to our east and was threatening, I'm at a loss, I forgot the name of the subdivision. The Lake Ridge subdivision, it had, we had lost some homes in the southern boundary, and it was beginning to extend in, and we had deployed crews to this area down here. At the same time, the fire was growing up towards Anitra, Evans Ridge, and it had breached into the Evans Creek Canyon, and we had wind-blown embers going into the Bartley Ranch neighborhood. That's also started some secondary fires that we had to deploy resources to. Midway through Friday morning, a concern was the Manzanita Canyon, and I believe this is Dant Road. Initially, crews tried to stop the fire in this area. Because of the high winds and the growth, it did leap. At the same time, we started to receive assets that were beginning to work the southern boundary. These are hand crews that were starting to contain the fire along the kind of the rugged terrain along this area. Well into the early afternoon of Friday, it had breached Dant Road and actually had started to run down the Manzanita Canyon towards Pioneer. And at the same time, crews were working to contain the Bartley Ranch area and the Skyline, Zalezi, Windy Hill area, where we had a considerable amount of embers and ember starts and fires in that area. We believe that the fire originated due to an electrical event basically in this area right here. And what I'll do is I'll zoom in, and you can actually see the overhead where you can see, I'm having a little hard time with this mouse here. You can actually see some of the power lines going from north to south, and this is where we believe the fire originated. There we go. And to give council kind of an idea of the type of terrain, this is sort of a ground or a eye-level view of the terrain that the fire started in. Very hilly, very jagged, no roads. Again, this is sort of a 360 view. That's due north. If you were to do a flyover due north, you would actually be flying over the casino areas and the downtown areas. Again, this is sort of a large snapshot of the entire burn area. After action events, early into the incident, we requested and received a fire management assistance grant. This FMAG will allow us the opportunity to offset 75% of our response expenses. The other 25% will be shared by 3 agencies: Washoe County, the City of Reno, and the U.S. Forestry Service. At the request of the governor's requested that we apply for some state emergency funding to help offset the 25% that we will be responsible for. We are in that process, and we haven't heard back from the governor's office yet, but we feel confident that we're going to receive some funding to help offset a good part of that 25% that we're going to be responsible for. The Reno Fire Department spent the better part of 10 days after the fire visiting impacted neighborhoods, literally going door to door, making sure that residents had all the information they need. Any serious safety issues were addressed with respect to gas, electrical, partially collapsed buildings, and we assisted those residents as best we could. The last part of this presentation deals with current ongoing efforts to revegetate the area. There is some concerns with respect to flooding, if we get any type of rain or snow activities, what the runoff would look like. And also there's the long-term issue of revegetation with respect to planting the right type of vegetation so that in the spring we don't have cheatgrass, we have other types of growth that would be less conducive to fire behavior. I'd like to ask John Flansburgh if he could step up, because we are currently working with multiple partners to utilize grant funding for this process, and I'd like for him to speak on that if he could.
For the record, John Flansburgh, Director of Public Works. One of the concerns that we have is due to the vegetation that's been burnt off and the soil characteristics that when you have the high heats, your soils become hydrophobic. So when you start getting the rains coming in, the water actually wants to shed off of the soil, and it will actually become more a carrier of that soil as opposed to actually penetrating it and absorbing into the soil. So we've been working with, Public Works staff has been working with Washoe County, also the Nevada Land Conservancy, and one of the items that we'd like for your consideration, and we have something on a staff report for the next meeting, is to consider maybe using the Nevada Land Conservancy as the agency that would go accept grant funds, perhaps as available from the Truckee River Fund, and authorizing the city manager to help to enter into a memorandum of understanding of how we would work that agreement due to the length that we're going to have between council meetings from the 14th to the 18th of January. So anyway, we are working diligently to come up with what those next steps are. There is a public meeting this evening to discuss for those who have been affected things that they can do, individual homeowners in their areas to prevent some of the items that we're concerned with runoff and soil degradation.
That concludes my presentation. I'll take any questions should the council have any.
Chief, thank you very much for the presentation and the update on this. And I noticed you didn't mention it, and I will repeat it because I know all the council people know this, but the heroism and the quick response that your people and everybody else involved with you. You said that list was too long, and certainly Chief Pitts and his people. But I think the point is there were 30 homes lost and others, as you said, a couple dozen severely damaged. But the other point is there were more than 4,000 homes which you rallied and were able to save and were not affected. And we're sorry for the people that happened to, but we always have to remember, I mean, the prevention of the 4,000 that could have gone, I don't know if all of them would have, but that is so important that I would hope in future presentations that you include that, because that's a salute to your people.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? Councilwoman Safraza.
A couple things, Chief, because we have had this discussion quite a bit over the last few years with the issue of 4-man and 3-man engine crews. A significant event like this Can you tell me what the difference would have been with a 3-man and a 4-man engine crew in response to this type of fire?
In short, council member, it enabled our crews to immediately go to work. With a 4-person crew, in this particular case, because we were fighting fire outside of structures, they were able to split and actually protect 2 homes, actually 4 homes at the same time. There were homes that they responded to that were already on fire, and they were immediately able to enter the structure while the 2 remaining members stayed outside. It, in essence, made for a quicker, more effective response in this particular case. This was a very unique fire in the sense that we had significant winds, and we had crews that are literally leapfrogging from one house, 6 houses down to another house, 6 houses down to another house. But the ability to have 4 persons on the crew, they were able to basically protect more homes at the same time.
And then my other question would be on the actual, you had touched on it, do we know the actual cause of the fire at this point?
We believe that there was some type of electrical event with the high power lines, given the high wind conditions. We've got some video footage that actually shows some arcing, and shortly, within a minute or so, you can see a ground fire building in that exact same area, and the fire just progresses from that point. We've taken all of our facts and our investigators' notes and their evidence, and we've shared that with the ATF, and they're reviewing that. And once we get confirmation that there isn't any area of dispute, we'll formalize that report and that conclusion.
So what happens in that process as far as the liability, who's responsible? I understand we have the 75%, but also the 25%. As you said, there's possibility the state may jump in. But then who's responsible for the actual costs then of if it's determined that the power line was the cause?
Well, that's a legal question, and I'm going to assume that there would be some liability there, but that's...
Tracy Chase, Reno City Attorney's Office. Private individuals and homeowners would look to their own legal counsel to determine whether they have any litigation opportunities. Also their own insurance company. Also, so this council is aware, we have already as a city put in a claim for the damage to our property because we own the open space in the Manzanita Canyon. We have at least 3 parks that have vegetation that were affected, and we have open space in Lower Evans Creek. So all of those avenues are available to the individual, and those litigations, if they find there is sufficient cause to bring them, will come in the future.
So that would include the actual cost of fighting the fire as well, Tracy?
As to costs of fighting the fire, we would have to look into the possibility, determine exactly where it started, because pinpoint the jurisdictions, because if by chance it's in a Truckee Meadows jurisdiction, they may have a different law than a City of Reno jurisdiction or a Sierra Fire Protection District jurisdiction. So when the final incident report comes out, we will continue as a legal office for the City of Reno to monitor all opportunities.
And then my last question, Chief, on the overhead power lines, because there's been significant discussion about that. In fact, the utility lines come to us for a master plan and the whole utility corridor. Does fire prevention then do an analysis when they're doing the overhead lines of what the potential is for high winds or this type of situation, things that could be prevented with the overhead power structures from a fire prevention standpoint?
I know that the plan, for the record, Mike Hernandez, Reno Fire Chief, I know that the plans do get submitted via the planning process, and the Prevention Bureau does look at where they're being located with respect to how close they are to homes. But I'm not sure that covers, for example, wind resistance, high wind tolerances, et cetera. But we do look at those type of plans as part of the planning process to make sure that they're X number of feet away from a property owner, et cetera. That's probably something we would look at in the future.
Especially those areas that are high prone to fire. I mean, there's been another fire in this particular area, so. Okay,
and this area is quite a challenge, very rocky. Even from the road, there's large boulders that prevent vehicles from accessing even the dirt roads. You can see where people have taken their 4-wheel drive and kind of carved their own road, if you will. We had absolutely no way of deploying our brush rigs into that area. If we were going to go to the seat of the fire, we would literally have had to have hiked on foot.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank
Councilman Hascheff.
Chief, could you just briefly, because we have our public meeting tonight at Collin Ranch Elementary School, could you just briefly go over the topics that are going to be addressed so the public knows if they attend the meeting?
That is going to address specifically the revegetation and the revegetation programs that are currently available to the citizens. What resources are going to be available in terms of seeding, and what funding sources citizens can either apply for. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're also going to discuss their vegetation with respect to their homes, and fire safe behaviors with respect to their properties, and kind of better preparing the individual property owner for the next wildfire season. And unless I miss something, I think that's pretty much it. Yes.
All right. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, the update, Chief.
Thank you, sir.
Let's move to the consent agenda. Are there any item? Pardon? Oh, is L5? All right, let's move to agenda item L5 then. Discussion and potential direction to staff related to the Gateway project presentation, an 18-month construction program at Reno Tahoe International Airport that will enhance the travel experience for 3.8 million passengers. Brian.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the council, fellow citizens. Thank you for having us today. I'm Brian Colpin, the Vice President of Marketing and Public Affairs for the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. I'm joined by my colleague, Dean Schultz, who is the newly minted COO of the Airport Authority. He's replacing Marilee Mora, who has left for Points West, and so we're proud to have Dean moving up into that position in the Airport Authority. Thank you for having us to make this presentation, which we think is really important for the community and for all of the travelers that come through our region. What we're presenting today is called the Gateway. It is a project that will create a new front door to our community, enhance the airport in many different ways. At the airport, we believe we make the all-important first and last impression on people coming and going from the region. And so we believe this project will help us do that in an even better way. It's going to take the Tahoe theme that you see in the ticket lobby that was redesigned during the ABC project about 2 years ago, that outdoor theme and the mountain motif and lodge feel. It's going to extend that throughout the airport. We're also going to create what we call a centralized security checkpoint. And while that sounds like quite a mouthful, that's literally taking our two existing very small security checkpoints and creating one large checkpoint on the first floor of the airport with the latest technology available. And it's also going to bring brand new stores and restaurants to the airport and really raise the product that's available in the Reno Tahoe International Airport. Why are we doing it? Well, it's bringing brand new security technology. The centralized security checkpoint will become the best security checkpoint in the western United States. It'll be a test bed for TSA technology, probably one of two in the entire country. So that's exciting to offer the highest level of security for all of our customers. And it is going to take a majority of our stores and restaurants, not all of them, but most of them, and move them past the security checkpoints. Today, we're all unfortunately familiar with the gels and liquids regulations when we travel. Well, when you're trying to dine, that can be a challenge for people. So moving those restaurants past security is going to really help customers get through the security process and have more dwell time and a better dining experience past those checkpoints. But what's really important, especially in today's economy, in our state and in our region, this project will create 275 construction jobs over the next 17 months right here in our community. Q&D Construction is the general contractor on this project, so we're really excited to bring that level of employment here to our community. The Gateway, we really do welcome 4 million passengers coming through the airport every year, so this is exciting to raise the level of what we offer. It is a $27 million project. It's being paid for by PFCs. That's the fee you pay on an airline ticket when you travel through Reno Tahoe. It's about $4.50. We've banked some of those dollars to pay for this project. Airport revenues from our concessions like our gaming, our parking, our rental cars, our stores and restaurants will fund this. But also our stores, our restaurants, and our gaming concessions are pitching in $7 million in private investment to help pay for this project. And we're also going to receive federal funds as well. December 2nd, the walls went up. If you've been through the airport in the past couple of days, you've seen the construction walls or if you've seen the coverage in the paper. Bag claim work has begun. Q&D's hard at work already. There are 4 phases of construction that will take place in bag claim as we do a bag belt at a time over the next few months as we move down through that area. We're going to be extending a real whole new feel to the bag claim area. The project will touch literally all of baggage claim, all the rental car outlets, the restrooms, the taxis, the shuttles. They'll all be impacted at some point, but we have an awful lot of signage and customer service to help guide you through. This kind of gives you a glimpse of what's to come. I've teased Dean and his team, who are the designers on the project, and the engineers. They say those are Lohantan trout. They look a little bit like tuna in the artist rendering, but those are actually to kind of evoke images of the Truckee River. We're going to be pulling up the carpet and putting all tile through baggage claim. You see the stonework going up the columns. That's, again, taking that motif that you see in the ticket lobby and spreading it through the airport. So it's really bringing that whole outdoor theme into the baggage claim area and really helping welcome people as they come to our region. I won't explain this entire chart, but we did a heavy-duty analysis of all the flights that come each day, the number of passengers, and taking a look at the bags that we'd be handling. And what we've done is slotted literally our rush hours so we can have the right level of customer service on duty at different times of the day to help guide people through the project. This is an overview of bag claim. What you see there is phase one, where the construction wall has been placed now. That's just adjacent to where the ski statue is when you make that turn to go into baggage claim. And that construction wall is there now, so we're going to be working with 4 bag belts. We have an awful lot of signage up to help guide people through the process, and we have an awful lot of staff that will be working as well during our busiest times to help us through. We'll extend that construction wall through the process to bag belts 2, 3, 4, and 5 over the next few months as the project goes on. And we'll be reopening the bag belts as they move down. So we'll get 1 back in about a month, 2 back in 2 months, and so as we move down, we'll open up the bag area that's just been completed. This gives you a glimpse of a restaurant that's to come, because as we move that security checkpoint for construction onto the first floor, it's going to replace the existing food court. So at the same time as we're doing bag claim, we're going to be building a brand new restaurant, and SSP, which is the concessionaire that's in the airport, has brought in a new chef and a new manager, and they're creating a new restaurant, which will be where the Ponderosa Pines gift shop was, adjacent to the ski statue. They're going to be bringing local flavors from farmers markets, local brews and wines. Food will be prepared right in front of people. Pete's Coffee will still be there as well. So we'll open this restaurant up before we start construction in the food court. The security checkpoint will replace the food court area. And at the same time that we're building the checkpoint, we'll be building new stores and restaurants up on the 2nd floor. And we'll go down to what the plan will call for is the north escalator, which goes up toward our C concourse, will become, when the project is done, literally the down escalator for arriving passengers, and the other escalator that you can see in the picture at the very bottom section of the image that you see there. That is how people go through security and come up that as the entrance up to our concourses. What's really exciting is what will be created on the 2nd floor is an entire new atrium type of feel in the airport. They're going to take the wall up on the 2nd floor we call the connector concourse just at the top of the escalators. They're going to raise the ceiling 18 feet and move out the wall onto the ramp 40 feet. This is going to create a large bank of windows that will overlook the ramp, and that is where the new restaurants and the new stores will be, which will really welcome people to our region. Anybody arriving and departing will have this breathtaking image now as they come, watching aircraft come and go, the mountains to the east. The restaurant will be built up along the windows there, a new signature restaurant, and really give people a nice, comfortable experience as they come and go through the airport. New stores will be added. New restaurants will be added in that section. The completion date for all of this will be April 2013. The bag claim portion should be done by March of this year. When it's done, we'll have the best security system in the Western United States and a lot of added restaurant and retail. Give you an image of that. This gives you the lodge feel and the Reno Tahoe feel to the restaurant that will be built along the windows up there on that 2nd floor. And we'll have a lot of those local flavors and local recipes that will feature in our restaurants. The bars that are on our concourses will be improved. They'll be opened up, more light, more woodwork, more reflecting that outdoor theme of our region. Also, the new Reno Marketplace with several new stores. The Brighton Boutique, which has been inside one of our Ponderosa Pine stores on the 1st floor, will now have its own boutique that will open in 2013. That's a glimpse of what's to come. No Boundaries is an outdoor apparel retailer and gear, which again represents our region to people coming and going. In Motion Entertainment is a high-tech electronics store, which will open up as well. And we'll have the CNBC Smart Shop, which is a kind of a newsstand type of a feature that will be in the airport as well. We're also bringing back a familiar character, if you remember from the ABC project, the construction wizard from the advertisements. He's back for this project to help us promote. He's featured in our radio ads, our TV ads. We've created a microsite that he's featured on, so all of our advertising and promotions and social media will drive you to that site so you can stay updated on the project. He is a local resident. He's from Sparks. He is a construction worker, so he does carry the theme while he's on TV and does a great job for us. Customer service, there will be a great deal of signage available in the airport to guide you through the process. Our staff is also dedicated to the project. During those busiest times, and especially as we get into March, it's one of our busier months of the year, all of the management team is trained to go into the airport and work in a customer service situation. Whether it's the CEO or accountants or managers and marketing people, we all go down and help out in situations in the airport to help guide people through. And we'll do that with this project as well. The microsite is up and running right now to help guide you through the project. It has graphics showing the construction phases that are coming and the images that I've shown in the presentation today as well. Mobile website is about to go online. We've had a long time website obviously at the airport, but we haven't had it in a mobile capability, and so we're launching that along with this project as well, and we'll be shooting coupons out through that site to help guide people to our stores and restaurants during the construction. Social media is going to be used, Facebook and Twitter also through the project. Obviously, with today's world, you must do that. So we're going to be shooting out a lot of messages on a daily basis when we have anything coming up with construction that people need to know that's a change in the process. Be happy to take any questions you have about the gateway.
Brian, thank you very much. We do have a public comment, so we'll get back to that in just a second. Mr. Sam Dene?
Sam Dene, the Encyclopedia of Reno Government, and I don't want to be, you know how I hate to be your curmudgeon and throw damping stuff on all of these projects, but this reminds me that all I can think of is the classic term corporate welfare. This is corporate welfare, and I don't care if they call them PSAs or PSEs or whatever you want to call them. Taxes are taxes, and our taxes are paying for something. I see on the one hand, you juxtapose 1,800 kids without homes over here, starving to death. And over here we got all of this fancy flapdoodle coming down at the airport. Granted, maybe some of it is required, it might make the area safer, the airport safer, maybe 10% of it. But the vast majority is just fluff and unnecessary. And by the way, I love it when people get jobs. Don't get me wrong, jobs are important. 275 jobs, that's a lot of jobs, but I think there's a lot of other things that could be done to provide 275 jobs. This reminds me so blatantly, so it's like they must have used the same plan. It reminds me of when you left a perfectly good city council building over there and spent all of the millions of dollars on this building. We've got a perfectly good airport. I haven't heard anybody complaining about it. I haven't even seen the Reno Regurgitator newspaper saying anything bad about it. I'm sure there are little things that could be fine-tuned. And again, I hate to be a curmudgeon, but I just think this is just terrible, ladies and gentlemen. This is terrible to spend money on something like this when we've got problems all over this town. Problems that I warned you about, by the way. But we've got so many problems. Again, 1,800, on the same page in the newspaper, 1,800 children are homeless. Now we're going to spend $40 or $30 million putting lipstick on this airport over there. That doesn't even really need lipstick. It's a beautiful airport. Is there ever any corporate welfare that the airport turns down? And by the way, for those who don't know it, for the past 10 or 12 or 15 years, the federal government has been sending $6 or $8 or $10 million of grants every year to pay off that other runway that was built many years ago. So if you want to say the money is PSEs and that people are getting on the airplane or paying extra taxes on their tickets to pay for this, I don't think the people getting on the airplane thought their taxes were going to go to pay for a new cafe or a new escalator, stuff that isn't needed. Again, they're going to be tearing down perfectly good stuff over there, replacing it with stuff that's probably just about the same, and then you're going to, just like you did with our city council building over there, and you spent 3 or 4 or 5 years finally getting somebody to move in there, but you forget that you tore down, you gutted the inside of that, and Mr. Mayor's looking askance at me. Come on, Mr. Mayor. Where have you been? You've been gone for the last 15 minutes. You didn't hear the presentation. You would probably be just as upset as I am.
I'm very excited about what I hear they're doing.
We have any questions or comments? Councilwoman Zadra.
Thank you, Brian, for the information. Can you, you touched on it in the earlier part of your presentation. What's the passenger arrivals that annually that we receive through the airport and cargo, and what kind of economic impact does that have on our community each year?
Quite a bit, and if I could address the tax issue. There are no local tax dollars being spent in this project, and any money that is made on an airport, that's generated on an airport by federal statute must remain on an airport and cannot be spent in the local community. If it was, it would be a violation of federal law, and the airport, all of its grants would be in jeopardy. And to give you perspective on that, the airport has received $250 million in grants in the past decade. So money generated on the airport can only be used for airport projects, and that's what's being used to do this project. But to get to your question, economic impact, obviously, at the airport is very important. Every time a 737 lands at Reno Tahoe International Airport, it generates $90,000 for the local community. Right now, we generate about $3.5 billion in economic impact. Cargo right now is amazing at the airport. In the month of December, we become one of the busiest cargo airports in the United States, because of the proximity of all the distribution centers here in the Reno Tahoe region. And you will see 747 aircraft in the next couple of weeks on the airport runways and taxiways, taking that cargo around the country and from around the world. So it is a very big part of what we do.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations to Chris Bart and everybody at the airport for doing this and creating the jobs, and that also will help with some of the children that Mr. Dene was talking about. So keep up the good job. Appreciate you.
Mr. Mayor, if we were so fortunate, every project that the airport has done has been paid in cash, something that the city hasn't, or county, or state has been able to do for many, many years.
Well, there's certain things you don't need to go into.
Councilman Ayazi, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I really appreciate the jobs they're creating. I don't like to speak against jobs. I just like to come to the podium and speak against every project that ever created a job. So I'm not really opposed to jobs. And you know, when I first got on a plane there in 1966, it was a Quonset hut. There was nothing wrong with it as a Quonset hut. I don't know why we ever improved it at all. It was perfect back then.
You're right. You're right.
So I'm not sure why we've ever done anything out there. In fact, when the airport was where the golf course is, we should have just left it there because it was perfectly fine where it was. We don't need to ever put a dime into these projects.
Well, I know that all of us are on the mayor's Christmas list, so that's probably why that cargo has increased so much, so we're going to be looking forward to it.
I think my wife has something to do with that as well.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
If I could point out to Mr. Councilman Ayazi's point, it's important to remember that the terminal itself was built for the 1960 Squaw Valley Olympics, so the ABC project helped us basically re-enliven a portion of the terminal. This helps us take care of a large portion of the rest. Concourses could be something we have to look at in the future because they are dated and small by today's standards. But this helps us take a building that is that old, give it some more life, instead of doing a project like was done in Sacramento and incurring very large amounts of debt, which is then passed on to the airlines and can hurt your level of air service. We're trying to do this steps at a time, keep those costs under control, and keep those airlines coming in a cost-effective way.
Councilman Sferrazza?
Couple questions, Brian, on the security, because that's one thing. Is the new security checkpoint going to have the scan system now, or is it optional where the person can use the scan system or the old type of detector?
It's a great question. Part of the genesis of this project was, if you remember about 1.5 to 2 years ago, the concept of the body scanners being put in airports all across the country. Our CEO, Chris Bart, resisted and told the TSA, we hear that there's more technology coming down the road. And with our confined checkpoints, it's hard to fit that new technology in the 2 existing checkpoints. It was an opportunity to find the best way to bring the latest technology in that will be less invasive, that doesn't show every contour of the human body, and it uses blurred scans or stick person scans rather than that type of technology. So by holding out and not giving in, It's allowed us to receive some more federal funding for this, bring in the latest technology. We may end up with a body scanner for training purposes before the project is complete, but the body scanners that will be brought here, hopefully for the future, and we don't know what that technology will be yet in a year and a half, will be a lot less invasive than what other airports have across the country. And the pat-down is always an option for people going through security who don't want to be exposed to the
Oh, I love
to
the
that
pat-down. All right, I have a person that wishes to speak unless there's any other questions. Ms. McBride.
Okay, now with...
Introduce yourself for the record,
Oh,
please.
sorry. It's Dorian McBride. And with everything that's going on with the Stock Act and the insider trading and how everybody made money off of the old security walkthroughs with, I'm just wondering, anybody here have a little bit of stock somewhere that might be making a little bit of money or with a company or something? I'm just curious with this new technology, the new technology that's coming out. Just a thought.
Thank you.
I'm not sure the public comment, is that stock and the company that's providing the technology? The answer would be no for me.
The technology that will be supplied for the project will come through the TSA and does not come to the Reno Tahoe Airport Authority. And at this point, it's sensitive security information, so they haven't even told us exactly what will be coming and what configuration. So that still remains to be seen.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. We look forward to a bigger and better expanded airport. Thank you.
Thanks. Hope to see you soon at the airport.
Congratulations, Dean.
Mr. Mayor, we are, if you want to move forward, we are on E1, consent
All right.
agenda.
Consent agenda. Any items you want to pull for discussion? Mr. Isaac. E6. Mr. Frazen.
E1B1.
E1B1.
E11.
E11. Any others? Chair.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Isaac.
Yeah, on E6 on these defibrillators that we're going to purchase by the, for the fire department, I just want to make it clear, put on the record, is this to the Reno Fire Department or to the combined fire department?
That's a good question.
For the record, Mike Hernandez, Reno Fire Chief, Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. They're providing the match.
So they provide the match?
Yes,
and
sir.
so at the end of this breakup, they're going to get that?
That's correct.
And who applied for the grants?
We provide on behalf of.
Yeah, that's me.
Why didn't we provide for grants on
I'm
behalf of
sorry,
us?
we applied on behalf of the consolidated Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District, Reno Fire Department
So
organization.
we did the work to get the grants.
That's absolutely correct.
So why are they going to Truckee Meadows? If we find the match, would they come to us?
We could certainly negotiate that.
Why would we have to negotiate that?
Well,
I just want to
yeah.
see, how did the
That's
process,
an avenue we can explore.
how did the process work that we do all the work and they get all the stuff? Did they come to us and we want you to apply for this on behalf of us?
No, these are items that we had identified over the course of normal day-to-day operations. The grant application made itself available, the Assistance to Firefighters Grant. It was an eligible purchase. We elected to purchase automatic external defibrillators to go on. There was a match requirement that the Reno Fire Department couldn't participate in or didn't have the funds for, and it came out of their capital, the Truckee Meadows capital side, so we applied on behalf of the...
So how many defibrillators does Reno have?
I would have to check on that for you, sir.
So does Truckee Meadows have defibrillators now as
They
part
have
of their
some, yes.
inventory? But we don't.
I can get those exact numbers for you, though.
Well, I'm just curious because it says that we can't, if these are their only ones, it said they didn't want to carry two different pieces of equipment to have to work on and train. But if they're going to be separated, then I would wonder if this would have to go to bid. Because they're saying that because the reason this does not have to go to bid is we can sole source this because we already have some equipment here. We want it to match what we have here, and that's the rationale for doing the sole source. But if they don't have any defibrillators from Zoll right now, I'm wondering if they're getting around that sole source bid requirement, and we might have to put that out to bid.
Yeah, I would have to look into that further in the sole sourcing I know that as an industry standard, Zoll is the main provider of AEDs, and when we work in conjunction with REMSA, we basically unplug our leads and they plug in their leads and they use Zoll's. So I think that was the reasoning behind going with Zoll's. So, yeah, and I'm told Truckee Meadows does have Zoll product as well. So.
I'm not arguing that, it's just that's the rationale for getting around the state law for having it. I don't know if that applies, that other jurisdictions have it and all that, but I just want to bring that out. If that's not a problem, then I'll move to approve.
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second discussion, Mr. President.
Chief, just one more question, because I had brought this up before, kind of following up on Councilman Ayazi's point, because we've been applying for all these grants on their behalf, and they're the beneficiary of those grants. Do we charge a fee for the staff time? Because some of these grants can be very staff-intensive, I'm sure as Maureen knows, because we're doing all the work on these things, and they're getting all the benefit.
And to a large degree, for the record, Mike Hernandez, Fire Chief, to a large degree, council member, you are correct. But it is, in theory, some of our staff costs or a portion of our staff costs is covered as part of the consolidated budget. They do pay for a percentage of my salary, a percentage of Michelle Hobbs's financial advisor's salary, et cetera. So in theory, we're receiving a portion of that back. However, practically, we do the majority, well, no, we do all the legwork with respect to grants and grants applications and management, and they are at times the sole beneficiary of it.
For the record, Maureen McKissick, I also wanted to point out that we applied for this before July 1st.
Yeah, I understand. No,
Okay.
I mean, staff's just doing their job on this. I just think it's unfair and just another, I mean, if the deconsolidation moves forward, it's just another piece of the pie that goes away.
Right, that's correct. And actually, we have never charged back for any of the development work that was associated with the grant applications.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Fraza.
Yeah, just a quick question on this one, Mr. Mayor, for Mike. How close is this to residential would be my first question. The second one, the cabaret license on this says it's 24 hours and they're, it looks like they have live entertainment. Is the live entertainment restricted on the hours of use, or is this anywhere near a residential area?
Michael Chomp, Business License Division, for the record. This is a Tier 1 annexed business that's been in existence over there off of Foothill.
Okay.
By Mikasa. There is residential. I'm not exactly sure how close it is, but there is residential it would be to the west.
Do they currently have, under the county, do they currently have 24 hours for live entertainment?
I'll have to check. I'm not sure.
I mean, that's my only concern is when staff's reviewing these applications, because that's what we get complaints on, is typically the live entertainment portion. And for our code, we typically restrict that cabaret license for, especially if it's close to residential. So I just want to know if this is consistent over what they have right now.
Let me verify that zoning. I think it's allowed 24-hour, but let me check that.
Yeah, and it's not the bar part, it's the live entertainment.
Right, and they operate, I think, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday are their hours of operation.
Okay.
Okay, so let me verify that.
Find out, we'll
get that.
postpone this, find out.
And Michael, is this near the Grove?
Yes.
Which has the very same zoning that they're requesting here, correct?
It doesn't have 24 hours.
And it's directly west of the Grove. Yeah, kind
Is it 24, but is the Grove 24 hour?
of. I'll have to verify, but I think that zone, anything facing South Virginia Street, is 24-hour operations. Now, I don't know if they operate 24 hours, but I can check that and get back to you.
It's just on the cabaret portion. It just
Yeah,
seems
that's all
unusual. We don't typically grant cabaret live entertainment for 24 hours.
Well, let me verify, and then I'll bring that right back to you, if we can hold this item.
We'll postpone that until you come back.
Yep, thank
All
you.
right. All right, Guston.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, on E11, I support this for the Churchill County communication. All I'm interested in, Steve, is when it talks about, I know there's some some ambiguity on exactly what how it's figured and the distance, et cetera, and we're at 16,900. I'm not looking for another report at council meeting, but if we have an email or just a memo telling us that when this was completed, the actual amount of money went in the general fund was X. That's all I'm asking for, because it says any revenues received will be placed in the general fund. And having read the staff report, I think you fairly nailed it down, but it seems to be there could be a little wiggle room. I'm just interested in what the final number is going to be.
Steve Hardesty, Public Works. Councilman Guston, I believe that those are the exact figures that they are going to be billed, so.
Okay, those are exact figures.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
no
sir.
need for a memo unless it changes.
Okay. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you. Move to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. I don't think we heard anything, Mark, so thank you very much. All right, now we'll go to ordinance adoptions, item G1.
Bill number 6776, ordinance number 6214, an ordinance to amend Title 18, Chapter 18.08 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Zoning, Rezoning a plus or minus 3 acre site bounded by Lewis Street to the north, Sunshine Lane to the east, Prosperity Street to the south, and Kitsky Lane to the west from 1 industrial to AC arterial commercial to ensure conformance with the existing urban residential / commercial master plan land use designation, together with all matters, with other matters properly relating thereto.
I have a motion, second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item G2.
Bill number 6777, ordinance number 6215, an ordinance to amend Title 5 of the Reno Municipal Code entitled Privileged Licenses, Permits, and Franchises by amending Chapter 5.08 entitled Antiques, Collectibles, Pawnbrokers, Secondhand Dealers in its entirety and providing other matters properly relating thereto.
Have a motion, second. All in favor say aye.
Mr. Mayor?
Discussion?
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple quick questions, Mr. Mayor. The language that we're adding to this, does this exclude everyone except pawnbrokers from the reporting requirement?
That's what I was going to ask.
Does this exclude everyone other than pawnbrokers from the reporting requirement? So, I mean, my understanding is that antique dealers are no longer going to be subject to the reporting requirement.
Antique and coin. Craig Scoff for the record, City Attorney's Office. Pawnbrokers are under one chapter, secondhand dealers are under another. This takes out some of the types of businesses that used to be under secondhand dealers. It does not deal with pawnbrokers at all.
Right. Pawnbrokers are going to continue to be subject to the reporting requirement.
Yes.
I understand that completely. But does it exclude the majority of the other businesses from the reporting requirement?
It excludes two specifically. What are they? The coins and antique dealers, I think it is.
Okay, now what about the
precious metals?
Oh, the precious metals are subject to, they were not subject to this particular statute from the legislature. We have the resolution that was passed, and then next week there will be a follow-up ordinance introduction that deals with precious metals.
And coin dealers automatically can buy precious metals, I would assume, correct?
I believe so, yes.
And there's no reporting requirement for them?
That would be correct. The legislature, correct, and that's what the legislature.
Now, we could impose reporting requirements. We just can't. We could be more restrictive, correct?
There is a provision in the NRS. Let me just say that would be the normal rule, but there's a provision in NRS that specifically exempts several items. Let me rephrase that. It specifically provides for more restrictive rules on a couple of these items, which by listing those would mean we don't have the right to do it on the others. I could check specifically which those are right now, so I don't know the answer yet.
So let me ask you this. If I'm a coin dealer and someone brings in jewelry and I buy it, I no longer have to report that, correct?
That would be correct.
Yeah,
Is it
that's
jewelry?
exactly what we're trying to get away from.
No. It's the action of the business of coins and collectibles. But if it's personal property items, that is secondhand dealer, per the NRS. It's the actual coins and collectibles, the way it's explained in the RMC and in the NRS.
Okay. And Alex, I appreciate you telling me that, but I want to make sure the attorney tells me that. Because the attorney just told me no.
And I think you need to go back to the drawing board, because there seems to be confusion between the two of you.
Well, we'll bring it out now online, and if
I mean,
we
you see
can
where we're
table
trying to
this,
go.
no,
I mean,
definitely, I understand, sir.
You said my concern, and I mean,
If we can table this and we can come right back.
If he was here, you know, I mean, the challenge is, if I've got stolen property, and I know if I go to a pawn shop and I'm going to have to report it, but I can go to a coin dealer and sell it there without any issues.
Yep.
I mean, that's where I'm going to go, right?
That's right.
Right. No, if we can, Your Honor, if we can table it, we'll get together right now and we'll come right back.
Yeah, and I think we are going to be in agreement, but I just want to check on
Okay.
that.
Thank you.
It's all right, we'll postpone that one. Come back to it. Resolutions, item H1.
Resolution number 7645, resolution donating $900 from the Reno Arts and Culture Commission budget to the Reno Housing Authority for the Kidscape program, which provides acting, arts, and life skills programs for children in the Reno Housing Authority complexes.
I have a motion second. All in favor say aye. Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item H2.
Resolution number 7646, resolution donating $1,500 of Reno Access Advisory Committee funds to the Notables to defray expenses associated with the 2011 caroling activities during the holiday season.
Move to adopt.
I have a motion second. All in favor say aye. Those that oppose, excuse me.
Well, that's okay, I'll vote for it. I just have a question, because it seems to be new in the agendas, the way we're doing this, just so I get it right. This says it comes out of the general fund. Is that actually coming out of the fund that we give to the Access Advisory Committee?
Should.
And I
Correct, yeah.
appreciate this, so we all know exactly where it's coming from. I just saw that's different from the other agenda, so in the, because the other one also said room tax fund and not from, so I just wanted to clear that for me. Going forward, I'll know how to read it better.
Kate is nodding her head yes. So.
Okay.
All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item H3.
Resolution number 7647, resolution granting Community Pride Grant funds to VSA Arts of Nevada to provide arts workshops and general maintenance of the Lake Mansion in the amount of $14,600.
Move. Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item H4.
Resolution number 7648, resolution granting Community Pride Grant funds to the Active 2030 Club of Reno to purchase clothing and other necessities for the underprivileged and at-risk youth attending selected Title I elementary schools in the amount of $12,000.
Have a motion second. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, just one question on this. I realize it's Title I elementary schools. Are those all in the city of Reno? I just want that on the record.
When it was at my two NABs, they did qualify that it would be the schools within those areas.
For the record, Lisa Mann, that is correct.
Okay.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item H5.
Resolution number 7649, resolution granting Community Pride Grant funds to the Reno Film Festival to assist with providing unique film screenings and educational film opportunities at the annual Reno Film Festival in the amount of $4,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item H6.
Resolution number 7650, resolution for budget augmentations and approval of budget revisions November 1st, 2011 through November 30th, 2011.
Motion?
Move to adopt.
Have a
Second.
motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item J2 we'll go to. We're going to, I want to pull this until next week's meeting.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I've been thinking about this, because we haven't told the RTC what we want on this. So we could pull it to the next one, but I think what we had talked about was, and the RTC doesn't meet before next week's meeting, so it might be January, but we wanted to move money, I thought, to the Virginia Street Bridge. And we also wanted to get more clarification as to where these projects are in relation to each jurisdiction and how each jurisdiction put that on. So that's what we
Well,
wanted.
maybe we don't want to put it. Somebody's here with RTC. Will you address it?
I have a brief presentation, Councilman Iozzi. We can go through this.
Okay.
Real quick. Jeff Hale, Engineering Director at RTC. I'm back from last 2 weeks ago, actually, to identify some questions that Council had on our program that's contained in the interlocal cooperative that we're seeking approval for today. Let's see. Here's the overview of the projects that we're planning for 12 and 13. I mentioned last time we had 2 projects that are going to fall outside of the unincorporated area, and that's Red Rock Road and Bridge Street. And then I broke out the fuel tax portions by jurisdiction. And on this ICA for fuel tax monies, I have $8.8 million for City of Reno in 12 and $4.8 in 13. And then Sparks had $4.9 million. Washoe County had, I apologize for the tab over, had $112,000 in 12 and then 2.9, which is the Red Rock Road. That'll happen in 13. The 2012 projects are listed there, and as well as the 2013. So that's the work that we're planning, 12 and 13 within the City of Reno. Any questions on those projects?
Any questions?
Was there more to the presentation? Is that it?
Yes, there's a little bit more. And then the next slide, and I apologize for the, it's very difficult to read. This is the areas that we're going to do our preventative. This is our slurry seal program. It's hard to read, but you can get an idea of where all the work is going to happen next year in 12. We do have some Sparks pieces, some Washoe County pieces, and quite a bit in the City of Reno. Now, this program, I budget usually about $7.5 million a year, and that's how it breaks down, 4.7. Again, this is our preventative and corrective, which is our slurry seals, and our corrective maintenance, which we go out and we have isolated areas of distress, and we mill it out and fix it. So within the City of Reno, 4.7 million, and then 4.9 million in 13. It's down 300,000 in 12 because we took that money, we got a grant for the Sutro Kerman project, and we're using that as the local match. So we took the 300,000 from the corrective and preventative program. Sparks is getting 1.25 million, and Washoe County 1.25 million. And then the corrective work, where again we mill out select areas of distress on those roads: Hunter Lake, Coonsley, Lake Street, North Virginia, Woodland. And then you see the 13. We've got 2 streets. We get usually $3.5 million that's generated by our 16-cent sales tax that we apply to this program. So that only makes up about half, and we fund the rest with, we make up the rest with fuel tax. So this is the slurry seal and corrective program. And then we had a question last time about the Washoe County 2, or the local index fuel tax money that the county was giving. That program began in 2009. There was about $750,000 available for local roads. We were not using this money for regional roads, which is 5,000 ADT and above. That was just dedicated towards local roads. The program increased to 1.15 million in 10, and then 1.3 million in 11. In 10, they suspended the transfer, so we didn't get that. The prior administration committed to backfilling that with our regular fuel tax. So the program was made whole for 2011. Moving forward, we do not do any more backfill. It goes back to the amounts that I showed you, $7.5 million a year. Any questions on this?
Jeff, just on 2013, you had on Plumas, again, slurry seal and corrective. Do you know what the corrective is, and do you know what part of Plumas that's on?
I don't. I'm sorry, Commissioner or Councilman Guston. You're talking about
13?
Pardon me?
The slurry seal on 13, you have budget for 13?
Oh, no, I don't know the exact limits of those.
That's fine.
Those things are all over the place. All right. It's a little hard to tell from the drawing. Okay, and then within this interlocal, which again, the purpose of the interlocal is to allocate fuel tax money. We use, historically, and we're working on changing our process, historically we put our capital program in the regional road impact fee program, which we had planned on $25 million for Southeast Connector in 2012, which included $16 million in right-of-way. We were assuming $6 million for the golf course, so we don't know how much we're going to spend in right-of-way. We could easily absorb, I would imagine, whatever agreement arrangement was made on the golf course, and that included $5 million in construction, which would basically get us going on our Seymour project or Phase 1 next summer. I don't think we could spend much more than $5 million if everything goes perfect. So that's what's in the ICA in terms of the Southeast Connector. And then we asked the question was asked about the Virginia Street Bridge. What are the funding possibilities? I did call NDOT to ask about the Highway Bridge Program, which the FHWA had told me that the project would be eligible for that. There are monies that are available, and I understand there is some that actually goes back to the federal government. But the issue is application would have to be made back to NDOT. They have a website, they have an application process, and then it would have to compete with the projects that they've already assigned. So I don't know that the project could be 100% funded through the HBP program. There would not have to be any STIP amendment or anything. This is a program that is in the STIP, in the transportation plan, that projects are allocated out of, so there wouldn't have to be any special adjustment there. If fuel taxes would be dedicated towards this. The fuel taxes that I'm bringing forward and basically budget for the next 2 years are spoken for. So if fuel taxes would be dedicated towards the Virginia Street Bridge, there would have to be some reprioritization that have to be done. It'd have to come back to the RTC to make a decision on what project would have to drop off for fuel tax funding. We have bike ped programs in 12 and 13. We have bike ped 3 and 4, about $600,000 each. That's CMAQ funding, and that's basically what we thought we could deliver, and a combination of what we thought we could deliver versus what we had available. We've got a bike ped plan, including an ADA transition plan that was just approved in October, and some of the early action projects that we had. One of them, of course, was the North Virginia pedestrian work, and we've got that taken care of. We're buying some poles. We had a lot of stuff dedicated. We're going to be delivering 3 crosswalks. We have a Sierra Street conversion, which is part of that project that we had planned up there, where we're going to take it down to a lane in each direction with a 2-way left turn lane. Some of the other things that may fall out of this are Virginia Street pedestrian improvements, Mount Rose Street bicycle improvements, region-wide bicycle parking. That's just an example of some of the things that are in that plan that, as we go through the beginning of the new year, we'll work through our traffic operations group. We'll take it back to our bike ped subcommittee and decide and prioritize projects out of those plans. And that link I put there is where you can access online the bike ped plan and see what elements in there. The ADA transition plan provides some guidance on where you would want to construct bike or pedestrian improvements, where you have hospitals or areas of high pedestrian activity. It just gives you some guidelines about what you might decide to fund, what we might decide to fund. That's all I have. Is there any questions?
Any questions? Mr. Azzi?
Yeah, and this might be where I'm getting confused, because we were told last time, I don't know whether it was here, at some of the conversation I had, that the City of Reno only has to approve the sales tax portion of the RTIP. And that's what you're going through. But I'm looking at what was presented to RTC for the fuel tax portion, and I don't see anything in there on the Southeast Connector. And so now we're being asked to put money toward the Southeast Connector, but I don't see anything that was presented to RTC. I'm looking at there was only 2 pages.
Of the interlocal?
Of what was presented to us, you know, those big charts that had the charts about what we were approving?
Yeah.
And when I look under the 2 pages for fuel tax, none of this had to do with the Southeast Connector. And I was told by legal over there that Reno only approves the fuel tax portion of the RTIP. So why are we approving money to go toward the Southeast Connector if it's not in fuel tax?
That money that goes to the Southeast Connector is our bond money, and we put that in our RIF category because that's just how they've done it. I know it's a bit confusing.
But
It's
that's
still
how they
fuel
gave it to
tax.
us at RTC. I've got 2 pages of documents here at RTC, what are fuel tax funded, and that's not on there at all.
It's all I know is it's the bond money that we have in the bank. It's dedicated towards.
So the city
Southeast
of Reno,
Connector.
we get to vote on where all that bond money goes?
Well, it's part of the ICA that I have here.
Okay.
I mean, it's
So you stated that all the other money's already spoken for. If we wanted to put stuff on for the Truckee River, we'd have to wait a couple of years.
that is true.
Unless we say, well, we want to put the Truckee Bridge on, come back to us with what else you would have to drop off, and we'd have that presentation.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that was
Mr. President.
kind of my same question, I guess, where I'm getting a little confused, because you showed the breakdown per jurisdiction on the corrective maintenance and the other roads. But what about when you get to the major projects like Pyramid McCarran, the other one in Sun Valley, and then the Southeast Connector, as far as when you start breaking that down, what are those costs in association for jurisdiction? I understand Southeast Connector is in the city of Reno's jurisdiction. However, that is for traffic movement by RTC's own admission from Sparks to the south part of Reno. So on the major projects, what's the breakdown there?
Well, every year I come back and I outline projects that either get delivered or they identify a phase. In the case of the Pyramid McCarran intersection, that's entirely federally funded. I know that I'm fairly certain we would have shown that on our ICA in the past when we got the money for the design. Although that money is being funded through CMAQ, STP, and we have some earmarks. There may be some other federal monies in there, but those are the big ones that I'm aware of right now. So that project's entirely federally funded. Everything else on a 2-year or on an annual basis is identified on this ICA. So as projects come up, we're either doing coming back for money for the whole thing for design and construction, which is what we would do for our rehab program. Bigger projects, we'd have preliminary design or right-of-way or environmental or plan line studies such as the Southeast Connector. In the past, we did $1.2 million for a plan line study, and then we had preliminary engineering that were on the ICA for about another $3 million. So we've already identified 2 phases, and now I'm coming back for the money that I already spoke about for Southeast Connector. So we've typically, on our bigger projects, come back by phase, and then in the case of the Southeast Connector, what we're thinking we should do is come back with a specific 3-way project agreement that outlines all the estimated funds for that project, and we'd want to do that probably next summer.
And there's no federal funds on the Southeast Connector?
No.
What about the Pyramid 395 connector?
The Pyramid 395 connector is funded. We have about $8.2 million. We're under an $8.2 million agreement. I'm not sure what year that showed up on the ICA. I'm guessing it was 09. That also is a federally funded program.
So that's 100% as well?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I just follow up? Oh.
Could you quickly go back to that Southeast Connector slide? What's the funding sources for that?
That is all of our RTC 5 bond money.
And then refresh my memory, that's all sales tax?
Fuel tax.
Fuel tax? And you said you could use the fuel tax for the bridge enhancement. That's also an option, right?
That is an option, but that would have to be decided by the commission.
Okay. All right, that's all I have for now, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, just real quick.
Mr. Dortch.
You said that the Pyramid McCarran project is fully federally funded? There's no local match on that?
That's correct.
Has that always been the case?
I believe so. NDOT's providing the match.
I didn't remember that. I thought we were using local money. I mean, I haven't been on the commission in, what, a year or so, but I thought we were using local money at one point in time for that.
As far as I know, the commission did talk about defederalizing the project, and that never happened. And the Federal Highway Administration was going to have to be paid back for everything they'd spent.
Okay, and then you also said that the pyramid to 395 is funded?
Only the NEPA.
Okay, I was
which
about
is
to say.
that, yeah. No, that's.
Yeah, where did that 600 million come from?
No, that's a $8.2 million effort to do preliminary design to support the NEPA policy. Or
Thank you.
Effort.
Mr. Hazy.
So what is STP local?
That's the fuel tax money that we get back from the federal government. That NDOT, it's passed through NDOT.
But we can spend that anywhere we choose, right?
We can.
So because what you have on the Pyramid Highway is STP local is $28.8 million. So while it's a pass-through from the feds, it's still money that we could spend where we choose.
It is, and it's dedicated, and sometimes NDOT will come back and decide those priorities for us, such as in the case of the I-80 job. We gave them $10 million, and they took an extra $6 million that we could have spent had we had something ready to go.
And the same thing with the $28 million CMAQ funds. We could put that at another project.
That's
They're
right.
not dedicated to there. So it's still money that we get to decide where it goes. And there's $8 million of other funding.
That's federal earmark.
That would be the federal earmarks. So I think what's happening here, and it's something new to me, and I've been on the commission for a while, but I thought the city actually approved more of the projects, that we all had to approve all the projects. And maybe what we need is our attorney to get together with the RTC attorney, because they have a new attorney also, to see exactly what we have to approve. Because I was under the impression now, the newest one was we only approved the fuel tax. But if we actually go, and there's no fuel tax money that was presented to the RTC that would go to the Southeast Connector, that I could see in my old staff reports. So it's becoming a conglomeration here. I don't know whether we can get that back by next Wednesday, or we do it in January. But I think we have to figure this out. Because we got to figure out, I think what we got to send back is, we'd like to see what are the ramifications of moving money to the bridge. What would drop off if we move money to the bridge? Maybe there's another project we say we'll postpone, but we're not getting that choice here as to.
We have, if we can't approve, if we don't approve the ICA today, we'll lose, we won't be able to come back till the 18th. I've got a laundry list of consultant agreements ready to go next board meeting on Friday. There's a chance we're going to lose some projects for 12 for our rehabilitation program. You know, this agreement, as I mentioned before, has been held up. We wanted to see how the Southeast Connector, the golf course issue, was going to shake out. That cost us a month. And then
And that still hasn't shaken out, has it?
it still hasn't shaken out, no, but we made some assumptions and moved forward. So anyway, just so you know, there's some projects that may not happen in 12 now if.
I mean, for instance, you put the $6 million on because to the city of Reno for the golf course, but the board took action to take the $6 million off. So even the board's own action has that number being the right-of-way number being a little sketchy.
We had made an estimate on the 16 million. We've got 3 major purchases to do: the golf course, Butler property, and UNR. And you know, we couldn't spend 16 million probably next year if we wanted to. It was just an estimate of what we thought if the commission wanted to press forward.
So if we only spend the $6 million in the city of Reno, there's $10 million to the bridge right there.
Well, you're going to need it someday. We've got a $38 million price tag.
Someday, but it might be the
on
next
right
year.
of
All
way.
we're doing is deciding what year we're going to spend all the money in.
You know, Councilman Ayazi, Jeff mentioned about some projects may drop off, but we had a project drop off too, and that's the golf course, the planning of the golf course, which we tried to get that decision made by September, and there was some absences and things we couldn't do that, so that planning of the golf course has been delayed also. So that's not the only one that gets pushed back.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
might, is there any way we can go ahead so we don't delay some of these other 2012 projects? Can't we just approve those and then just pull out these other issues with respect to the bridge and the southeast connector until we can get a decision on those?
It's a three-way agreement that I've been to the city of Sparks and county
Right.
for already. I'd have to take it back to them to amend the agreement, or actually to execute it. I'd basically be starting all over.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, too.
Yes.
Again, on those projects, though, it comes back to, and I can't remember if it was Councilman Guston or Haschef, and I'm glad you clarified, Councilman Ayazi, but on the federal funds, that's right, they could be spent anywhere based on priority. So that's why I want to see the list of how much money is really being spent in all three jurisdictions. I'm still not getting that today. Even the federal funds, I mean, essentially, you guys could have used federal funds for the Southeast Connector. You decided not to because it would be a lot longer process to go through the feds, especially in the floodplain and the core and all of those issues. That's why you're using the bond money to go forward on the Southeast Connector and no federal funds. So I want to see that list of how that's distributed through jurisdiction on all those different funding categories. And it is very disappointing that our project, the biggest one that's going to have a huge impact on all the residents out there, got delayed.
So Dave, what are you thinking? How long do you want to delay this?
Well, if our attorneys can get together and figure it out by next week, I'd do it next week, but he says he can't get together. I think Pierre might be an easier way. I think both commissions of Sparks and the county have another meeting this month, where if we approve this, I was looking right now, if we approve this agreement with everything except the Southeast Benefit District, I believe, or we ask the attorneys just to strike out everything that has to do with, that's that $16 million. So all the benefits that he says and all those local street projects can move forward. If we approve that today, then he can.
Well, we can continue this to next week, and then we could always approve that piece of it next week, too.
Well, I don't know when they're going to meet. If we approve at least that portion of it today, he might be able to put it on their agendas at least to get that portion moving ahead. So I'll make that. We'll see where it goes. I just don't want,
if we can help it, I don't want to delay these other projects from going forward.
Well, they can still come back to us under separate agreement. So I'll make the motion that we approve this agreement with all of the projects you talked about today on here, with the exception of the Southeast Connector, and I believe you have that in the staff report, and I'll have staff take a look and make sure that I hit everything in there. The South Benefit District, it's the Southeast Connector right away for phase one. I think everything else is just the local projects that are ready to go right now, if I recall. So maybe we can at least get going on those ones while we're still noodling around with the golf course thing.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion, second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Okay?
Thank you, Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
Mayor, I'd like to make a further motion on that, to ask our attorneys to sit down with RTC attorneys to see what really has to come to us. I know the new attorney over there is sort of looking at all those, and I'm getting confused now about what we approve and what the board gets to approve on their own.
Tracy Chase, Reno City Attorney's Office. We'll be happy to meet with Mr. Fowler on that.
Thank you very much.
Good.
Mr. Mayor, I think we're okay on G2 now, I think. At least that's what staff's saying.
I'll let him come on up here.
Thank you, Craig Straw from the City Attorney's Office. Yes, I had a chance to reread that section, and the question, I believe, was whether jewelry can be sold under
Precious metals.
Precious metals.
Jewelry.
Yeah, the new change does not address precious metals. It doesn't affect it one way or the other. So it would be more specific.
Yeah,
than that.
Can a coin dealer accept precious metals and not be subject to the reporting requirement?
If they are dealing coins, coins can be precious metals, yes. So they would not be subject, because it's a minted coin. So yeah, that one would come out and not be subject to the restrictions, in my opinion.
Now, would you consider all precious metals? Anything that they took in that was precious metals?
No, only a minted coin.
Okay. And I guess the chief, do you have any concerns with no reporting requirements for this?
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. Steve Pitts on behalf of the Reno Police Department. Can I revisit the conversation we had about a month ago? I think Mr. Yazzie fired the question on, you know, Steve, how many organizations are out of compliance? And we said roughly about 15%. And I've looked at those numbers again, and it's less than 5. We have about 91 reporting right now, 91 secondhand dealers and pawn shops reporting to the Reno Police Department. And we have less than 2%. I said 5. I stand corrected. It's less than 2% of the property that they transfer is actually stolen. And so I would say in this case, if you had a coin dealer that was accepting jewelry, I think they would be outside the scope of that RMC, and they couldn't do that. At least that would be my read on it.
So they wouldn't be able to accept jewelry?
I don't believe so. I may be wrong. Correct.
Just for clarification, secondhand jewelry is not exempted from the definition. In other words, it's still a secondhand item that needs to do all the reporting.
But they have, I mean, their license is secondhand dealer's license or not?
A secondhand dealer is licensed to be able to buy or sell jewelry, secondhand jewelry. Is that?
If I may, Alex Woolley for the record, Code Enforcement Management. Yes, sir. The way the ordinance reads and the NRS is that if they're engaged in that activity, which includes the jewelry and the precious metals, secondhand dealership, they will be required to have a secondhand dealer's license. If we are aware or become aware that a coin collector or someone who is in the business of coins and collectibles is engaged in buying jewelry, used jewelry, if we are made aware of that, we will issue that person a citation and require them to get either a secondhand dealer, which as we know with the moratorium they won't be able to, so we will issue them a cease and desist, and they cannot buy used jewelry or precious metals without a secondhand dealer license.
And currently, coin dealers do have to report, yes?
Currently, with this new ordinance, without this new ordinance, that is correct. With this new ordinance, which will be parallel with the NRS, they will no longer be required to have a secondhand dealer, but only specifically to the buying and selling of coins. Now, if we become aware that they're buying and selling anything else, they will be required to get a secondhand dealer license or issue the appropriate citation.
Okay, so then the only ones that this excludes from the reporting is the coin dealers and antique dealers.
That is correct, as long as that's the business they're engaged in. As soon as they get out of that scope, then they become secondhand dealers, and they will be required to meet those requirements that we have in the code.
Alfredo, I don't know if you wanted to say anything on this or not, or if you just came to listen, or... I mean, is that the way you understand this?
Mr. Mayor, Alfredo Alonso, yes, Councilman, secondhand dealers do in fact have to report. I think the question was how often they reported. I think that taking in large quantities of whether it be precious metals, jewelry, what have you, and if the purpose is to control obviously stolen goods, et cetera, I think the chief would agree that the more reporting, the better. And so pawn shops have to report immediately. So once they get the goods, obviously they report immediately.
Yeah, that's more the global discussion on how we're going to deal with this, not necessarily with the ordinance that's in front of us today.
Correct, but I think where it's important is again, they do have to report, but the new law excludes coin dealers from that. So.
Mr. President.
I have a question then, because the coin dealers, Alfredo, I guess question, if they go into a pawn shop and do the same thing, would the pawn dealers have to report the coins? So to me, it gets back to what are valuables, what we see as stolen property. So following up on Councilman Dorch's question, and a lot of these, we're seeing now the expos, the different gaming properties of buying gold. A lot of them are coins, those types of things that have no reporting requirements whatsoever until we change our ordinance. But it's just a breeding ground for theft, in my opinion. So how do we exempt the coin? I mean, if we're requiring the pawn shops on one hand to report it, and I understand they're loaning the money for for the valuables, but to me, that shouldn't make a difference. It still should be reported. It still could be a stolen good.
Steve
Chief?
Pitts, for the record, you're correct. I think it's more of a breeding ground potentially for the transfer of stolen property. But I mean, the numbers that I just talked with my crime analysis about this week would indicate that with less than 2% being transferred right now, it's not a huge problem for the Reno Police Department. But the question beyond that is the property being transferred, has it been reported stolen in the first place? And so if we don't know that it's stolen, and it is, obviously being transferred through, if it's a secondhand dealer coin or a pawn shop, we can't determine that.
But getting back to Councilman Dortch, if they realize, these thieves, if they realize, hey, a pawn shop has got to report,
Sure.
I can go in and get money on the spot for a collectible coin, where are they going to go? And if there's no reporting requirements other than if they go the other place, then the stolen good, it could never be recovered.
You're correct. I mean, with your permission, Mr. Mayor and Council, I would probably recommend that maybe we move this item, maybe continue it, and we'll work with the city attorney's office, sir.
It's very confusing, so
Yes.
it would be a lot easier to make if y'all take this back to the drawing board and.
Absolutely, sir.
Because if y'all can't make us understand it, not that we're the sharpest knives in the drawer.
Hey, speak for yourself.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Well, Mr. Ferraz has a very good point. I mean, and
No,
we know
no.
that these individuals we deal with are they're very adaptive, and once they find out that they can't transfer stolen property to other locations, they're going to find a place they can.
That's right.
So, thank you, sir.
Mr. Mayor, can I do a follow-up for Alex?
Alex?
Just,
Mr.
you had said, I
Woodruff,
want to
sir.
make sure that I understood your comment. If they're just dealing in coins and not taking in anything else,
That is
then
correct.
they're exempt from reporting.
That is correct,
But
yes,
if
sir.
they're taking anything else in, then they have to get a secondhand dealer's license.
That is correct.
And
yes,
that would
sir.
also apply to collectibles?
Collectibles is the other exemption as well. So
Okay.
if it would be the
Same
same thing,
rule.
if your business is collectibles and you're exempt, but you start doing something else, you're going to need a secondhand dealer license.
Okay.
What's the
And-
definition
and-
of collectibles? What's the definition of collectibles?
That's a good question. There it is. Collectible means, per the NRS, 647.013, we try to be ready for all your questions. An object of personal property that has special value primarily because of its unique characteristics and the high level of demand for the object.
And are those separate licenses, collectibles and coin dealer, or they can operate under the same license?
Currently, they are separate licenses, but since they will not be required to be a secondhand dealer, they could be the same general merchandise license.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And you were correct what you stated earlier.
Mr. Mayor, Tracy Chase, Reno City Attorney's Office. Just wanted to make you aware procedurally, this is at the adoption level, so if it comes back, it would come back in January, and you'd be at the ordinance introduction level on timing.
That's right. Yes, somebody else want to?
Is there any urgency to getting this done?
Well, Craig Scoff from the City Attorney's Office. That's a philosophical question, and it also has to do with a very technical question of preemption and legislative
Right.
authority. Because a big question does exist about if the legislature removes these items from the definition of a secondhand dealer, does that indicate a legislative intent that they be removed from it that would be superior to our ability to regulate them? I think that does go to your question earlier. We do have authority to add conditions and limitations on a license, but if legislature has spoken in an area, that may be a limiting factor. So it is a complicated area. So the question is, whether we pass it or not, they may be free to do what they want because the legislature may have spoken on this item. It will be if we do not pass it, that will be a tough legal question.
As confusing as it is, that'll be about 3 years from now they figure it out, so a delay's not going to kill anything. Anything, Chief, you have something?
If I could add, Tracy Chase, Reno City Attorney's Office, just so you're aware, it may create an enforcement issue, and we'll deal with that with the police department and coordinate with them because we have to comply with state law.
Yeah, Steve Pitts on behalf of the police department. Mr. Dortch, I think there's an urgency to do it right, and so I would like to revisit and work with the different departments and maybe look at some better practices on it. So thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief.
Somebody want to
I'll make a motion to continue this.
have a
Second.
motion? Second. All in favor, say aye. Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item J4. We'll put that off, like to put that off until our next meeting. Yes.
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor, could
we
I
also have the C item ready when you are ready.
Excuse me?
There was an E item that was continued. We are ready at your pleasure.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, for some further information for this agenda item for next week, on the staff report, it says that, that version 1 said that that pays us in full for all of the replacement holes, but I don't believe that's what it says in version 1, or version 2, I'm sorry. And version 3 is our recommendations. What I would like a little analysis on is what the RTC board did is they moved to bring these forward to the city council. And the next meeting, they voted to rescind the $6 million. But their next motion was to move to send these two agreements to us. So to me, that, again, I'm not an attorney, but that's, in real estate, that's an offer. So they've made us 2 offers. And I'd like some analysis as to which one of these would be good for us just to accept next week. If we just accepted it, what would be the pros and cons of us accepting each one of these? Because both of them have a $6 million offer in them for land. And I believe we could take either one of these today and they'd be forced to pay us. But could we live with the results of some of those? I know that some of them say that it's our final approval on the roadway. However, there's another section in there that says if there's something illegal, then only that section would not be applied. And that's illegal for us to presuppose what would happen in the future. So I'd like an analysis. Can I next week approve one of these? Because I know that version 2 says that they have to pay us by January 31st of next year. And maybe we move along just more real estate law than anything else, because it doesn't seem like negotiating with them is doing much good that I've been involved in. So that's just, I'll move to postpone this till next week, but I'd like that further analysis done.
Okay, any other discussion?
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Ashok.
Yeah, because the RTC presentation, as I understood, you already have in the budget $6 million, correct? So, as I understood.
We did till we didn't approve it.
Jeff Hill, engineering director, I had it in there.
Understood, but.
We assumed $6 million.
Right, and that's what you indicated. So, to me, V2, as I understand the staff report, it could be interpreted to be more than $6 million. So if the council said, we'll take V2 as the option, because that's what the RTC board did, then you'd have to adjust your numbers, presumably.
Presumably, and I'm not familiar with the
Understood.
versions.
Okay, I just want to kind of think through where we are. Okay. So I'm okay with the continuance, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. President.
Yeah, I guess clarification for Councilman Iazzi when we continue. I guess I'm unclear on what the offer is. Is it $6 million for the land and everything that was proposed for the subcommittee? Or is it $6 million to reconstruct the holes too? Because the motion by the subcommittee was separate. And I believe Councilman Smith was here and we had that discussion. So I want clarification what the motion actually does.
Right, and there's 2 different versions, and they say 2 different things. That's what we need an analysis on both of those as to what they do. They're very different as to how they were worded. So I can't give you that answer because they're both very different on how they are. So they've made us 2 different offers that I think we could accept either one of them, and they would be bound by it. But we just have to see if we can live with one of those offers.
Although the way I read V1 is the $6 million is a full and final payment, which means that includes everything. Compensate Reno completely for the right-of-way, the Reno bonds, and replacement holes. So, I mean, it would cost us much more to basically construct the replacement holes than $6 million.
Yeah.
So, and as part of that analysis, maybe staff could tell us which one provides the city of Reno with the most amount of funds so that we don't get caught in the shortfall.
Yeah, and I just want to be clear, because that was what was voted on at the subcommittee, myself, Councilman Dorch, and Councilman Ayazi, that was not inclusive of the golf replacement holes, because we don't know what the construction costs are going to be. It may be way over that number. So I just want to make sure from legal, I mean, what the ramifications are here.
And to be clear on the part, let's talk about this for a second, Councilman Hashef. You're looking at page 3 of 6. It's section 3. Upon receipt of $6 million, Reno shall be deemed to have been fully compensated for the SEC right-of-way. I remember we brought that up, and what we were told by the RTCs, that meant just the right-of-way. It doesn't talk about the replacement holes. It just says the use of the land, not replacement value, not anything else. For the use of the replacement holes property for the replacement holes and for the impact of Reno's. So we couldn't go back to them and say, we want to pay off our sewer bond or our golf course bond, and we can't say we want more money for property. But that paragraph, I interpret, is not that they wouldn't have to fix the golf course, but we couldn't go back for them for more money for land for the golf course. They have the right-of-way through there, but we still have to negotiate actually how the golf course would be fixed.
And the payment of it.
And the payment, yes.
Okay, all right.
Any other discussion? Have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. All right, now we'll go to item K1. Boards and commission appointments.
Oh,
Financial Advisory Board.
that's me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
The board has actually filled 2 vacancies with new applications, which is Steve Anderson and Jenna Soprizio, so I'll appoint both of those individuals.
Okay, I have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Northwest Ward 5 Neighborhood Advisory Board.
Move to appoint Charles Reno.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Youth City Council.
I'd like to appoint Matthew Cluett, and I think he'd be great. He's on the Nevada Youth Legislature as well, Mr. Mayor,
Okay.
this appointment.
Second.
I have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. K2, boards and commission appointments. Anybody want to change, or?
You have the colored copy here, Mr. Mayor, I think is hopefully the most recent. So if something's wrong, check it out, or if you're on something that's not on here, check that out. No one's told me they wanted to change anything.
Do we need to keep the retract design and landscaping committee?
Yeah, I think that would be the next thing, is I'm going to look through this. Maybe we look at all these and see which ones we still need to have.
Right.
But that's not, we don't have that on our agenda today.
No, that's right.
Mr. Mayor, Tracy Chase,
Yes.
Reno City Attorney's Office. Legal and staff have been working on that project because we brought a long list, it's been a while ago, of all the boards and commissions to streamline it. So that recommendation will come back to you in the near future.
Okay, because we need to trim this up. Anybody want to change any positions or get on or off of a committee, or anybody want on a certain committee? Mr. Guston?
You had said something about getting on the RTC.
But I mean, I've got 2 people. Do y'all want to stay on the RTC, both of you?
You certainly could replace me. I've only been there 4 months, but I don't
You
know
on
what you're
that?
interested in.
No, RTC?
Yes.
Oh, excuse me, I'm thinking of something else. No, RTC, I'm on there as the alternate.
You wanna
Mr. Anazzi got.
You
we
want to
got
be
that
the
one.
member?
Huh?
You want to be the member?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay. Me.
Mr. Guston.
I said it first, so it's me.
No, I brought the issue up because he was saying about knives in the floor, and I stuck a fork in him.
Well, I kind of like it as the alternate because I like the 2 appointees that I have. So why not just stay alternate? Because we worked it out real well that Dave and I have been Mutt and Jeff pretty good. We left you out because you didn't want to play Mutt and Jeff with us.
I can do 10 more meetings, Mr. Mayor.
We'll do that.
Oh, 11. I haven't done December yet. I could do 11 more meetings.
All right, let's keep it that way.
So I'll move to keep the boards and commissions, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Now, who wants the dubious honor of starting to take on a lot of the responsibilities of the mayor?
I'll be first to say that I'm out, Mr. Mayor.
So it's narrowed down to 5.
It's not down to 5.
Being the incumbent, I'm out too, Mr. Mayor.
Huh?
I'm out too.
Well,
How
now
about we
come on,
nominate
somebody help me.
Councilman Ayazi for vice mayor,
All
Mr.
right.
Mayor?
Second.
I have a motion and second. Councilman Isaac. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Mr. Isaac, you'll move closer to me so I can give you the gavel easier so we'll not have to leave.
That's not going to happen.
All right. Congratulations, I think, as Marcia turns more things over to you. Any liaison reports? Future agenda items? Mr. Isaac?
Yeah, I wasn't sure they were going to come to us. They told us they were by the end of the year. I just want to remind the true-ups in the fire department, they were going to come to us by the end of this year to see where we were with Truckee Meadows Fire, and so we didn't have to wait until June to do that. So those were going to come to us fairly soon.
Okay. January?
Well, I just want to remind that they said they would come by
okay.
the end of the year, and I don't know whether they're going to do that next week or they're going to do it in January.
Okay. Any other, yes, Ms. Edgar?
Mr. Mayor, I think that we need to establish a task force for the animal control services. Since we've brought this forward for discussion, I've had an awful lot of people, even more than prior to it being agendized a couple of weeks ago, who are coming forward with serious concerns and offers to be involved. We have a lot of rescue groups as well as individuals that could really be a resource for us for bringing forward information, data, as well as recommendations. So I'd like for us to discuss that at our next meeting.
Okay.
And also from my discretionary funds, a total of $3,000 to be divided equally through the Salvation Army for its senior and youth Christmas giving program. They're angel trees, for lack of a better description.
Okay. Any others?
Just to follow up on Councilman Zadra, I believe the city attorney is looking at the interlocal as far as the animal services, but also I think we need to have our finance staff look at this, because if the county, what the legal ramifications are, if the county, can they even legally do that through our budget process, because they're looking at lowering the tax rate but then imposing a higher tax rate for other services. So what happens if the city of Reno and Sparks, for instance, were to set rates during our budget process? I would like to know what that process is, if they can even do that without the city of Reno and Sparks. But also, and the Humane Society is looking at the possible operations. I would like to know from legal counsel, what would it take on the ballot initiative? If they were to do a ballot initiative, how many signatures would be required to actually repeal the tax and redirect it to the Humane Society for operations of the facility?
Mr. Mayor, Tracy Chase, Reno City Attorney's Office. I just want to advise you, I know the city manager, because on the 13th, the Washoe County will be taking up the item of animal control services. So I believe the manager's office has already put it on the agenda for the 14th. So you're aware when setting agenda items, that is on your agenda for next week.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Mr. Isaac.
two more things, Mr. Mayor. One is just a heads up. I got a notice from someone. I think in the future, we're going to have a discussion on Lander Street for Our Lady of Snows. And they're saying that they don't think that the normal noticing has been going out and we haven't been following procedure. So I want to double check that and make sure we're doing our noticing properly regarding that. I don't know if it has or not, but I got that, so I'll pass it on. And the next, where are we in regard to our joint meeting next week? Did that happen or not happen?
They have,
Oh.
I sent them a letter. They said that they would talk it with their commission meeting about whether to have a meeting or not.
Well, they may be required to under the NRS on the animal control stuff, Mr. Mayor, so they may have no choice under the law.
Well, I noticed Mr. Brunner in its column in the newspaper talked about how the open processes work. They've had one public hearing about this issue to talk about the public about fire service. So I'm not quite sure that was accurate.
Right. Any others? Mr. Ashcraft, do you have anything? All right. Any liaison reports?
Mr. Mayor, excuse me, I delayed it, and it will come to City Council, but I will mention last night, the Parks and Recreation Commission voted unanimously to decommission Moana Ballpark.
Oh, okay, good. The ballpark.
To close it, correct?
Yeah.
According to the paper.
Secure it. I mean, the vandalism that's going on there, the city's tried to do everything they can, and so we're going to take the ultimate measures like weld doors and do things that keep people safe who want to go in there to make some damage and do some evil things.
Just a question on that, Councilman Guston. Has there been an effort made by the Parks Department for Little League or some other organization to take over the actual maintenance and operation of the actual ballpark before that comes to us and we look at, I mean, to me, it would seem that we should try every avenue possible to try and keep it open, maybe with one of those clubs.
Well, as you know, it abuts Jack Ty Field where the Little League ballparks are. And when you look at the presentation and you look at the enormity of just watering the grass, it has to be hand watered. And the way, first of all, most of the stadium is not ADA compliant. So even if you had players on the field, they can't even go in the dugouts. Well, I'll bring it to the Parks and Recreation Commission to take a look and see if maybe somebody might be interested. But the enormity of the project right now is, I'm not sure anybody would want to take it on because the watering system in the outfield is just, it's been clamped so many times, they don't know when that's going to blow. And when you look at the as I mentioned, the dugouts, the stands, they were, I think 3 years ago, declared that they were unsafe because the wood on the seats is rotten. They're not safe for people to be in. There's really no part of the ballpark right now that somebody could come in and put a few $1,000s and play ball there because it's just not safe.
Yeah, I just don't want it to become an eyesore.
I understand.
I mean, I'm very concerned about that, so I think we should be looking at, I just feel like council isn't being presented with all the options available. Is it possible for CDGB funding, for instance, to be used for fixing the park? I just want the analysis done to see if there's a way that we can fix the park and keep it open. And like I said, maybe working with Little League or the other leagues to do something there.
I think we can ask
Soccer field.
Yeah, we can.
I think we can ask for an analysis, but simply the entrance, the ingress and egress of the ramps is twice the level what ADA requires right now. If it's I think it's 8.5% ramp, and it's almost double that. So we can get a report on that, but there are so many egregious things out there that would be very difficult. But I'm like you. I don't want, and I made this comment last night at the Parks and Recreation Commission. We don't want it to be the King's Inn of ballparks.
No.
Yeah, and I think if there's a will, there's a way. We did it with Northgate. I think there's other, I just think.
There's a lot of
the
other
ice rink, I just think that staff's jumping the gun that we have to close the park. I mean, we have, soccer's a good point. I mean, all of our fields are overutilized. They have offered to come forward with funds before. I think it was 300-something thousand. Maybe there's something that can be done with the fields, and we do a public plea out there and see. I just think closing the park, it's going to look, I mean, we went out of our way on the why. You did, Councilman Guston, to save that, or it would have been a blighted building over there.
And I understand, and what you say is legitimate. It also gives us another opportunity to expand the thinking on that aquatics center that's going to be there if the ballpark is removed. And so that may be, there may be funds to, it was asked last night, and the approximate number to demolish the ballpark was said to be, might be $400,000 to demolish it and go down to just street level, if you will. So I think we will look at that. I'll ask Parks and Recreation and Parks Department to take a look at that at your request. But the enormity of the dollars that need to be spent, I think, will surprise you.
Okay. All right, any reports or professional meetings? Item L4, Ms. Frazen.
It's resolution number 7651, resolution donating $2,000 from council donation funds to the Youth Empowered to Succeed, the YES program, to assist with expenses to provide mentoring, educational, and consulting services to at-risk youth.
I have a motion and second. All in favor say aye. Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item L6, Ms. Zadra. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, I was hopeful that this would be something that the city could take on potentially for this year, but some time has certainly passed that would make it prohibitive. But the idea is much bigger than the small day or whatever that American Express actually started nationwide a couple of years ago for the Saturday after Thanksgiving shopping. And that still, I don't think, is concentrating on what we really need to help our local businesses. I think that the city could do a tremendous service to preserving jobs and generating better revenue for our city specifically by hosting an event next year. But maybe the media could take on the cause and the message this year on a much, much smaller basis to really encourage people to not just shop locally, which could mean you go into a locally owned store, but the sweater or shoes that you're purchasing were manufactured in China or somewhere else. Instead, to really look at it at products that are made here in Nevada or services that are provided only in Nevada. So instead of giving that sweater and tie and slippers that maybe the popular Christmas giving, that it become a severe and really dedicated effort that you give certificates for local services, so that it's, maybe for a salon or a spa or having your bumper painted. If you have someone on your list who's driven a car for 3 years without, that scratch fixed, to really keep our money locally. So I'd like to have some staff time dedicated to kind of put a plan together for something that we could promote for next year, with the hopes that we really do try and help our citizens recognize, shop locally, and preserve local jobs.
Okay, we have some. Yes, Mr. Isaac.
I think that's a great idea, Sharon. I'm glad you brought this forward. And I think where we could also help as a city is, I know that there's a lot of smaller groups trying to do the same thing, and they're on different days. I know that there's one, Jessica Schneider does something out of Junkies. They have buses that go around, and they do that on the Friday after Thanksgiving. I know there's a buy local thing on Saturday after Thanksgiving. So maybe part of it is just trying to get these people together, and we help them advertise that.
That really is part of the thinking, and that we have it in kind of one general area. Some of the locations that I've thrown out to staff already, we could do it right at Midtown or on Cal Ave or at the ballpark. And, anybody who's a local service provider could come and sell gift certificates at that location on one given day, so that it is, all the shopping. And it could even be expanded to the point where it could become a fundraiser for other local entities. The cheerleaders from Reno High School could do gift wrapping, and the Kiwanis could sell hot chocolate, that type of activity, so that they could make some money. And it could be one big day of local only, and take care of your shopping list.
Okay, Mr. Paul Malley, you wish to speak?
And the next item.
Oh, the next item? Okay. You move it.
Yeah, I move that we allow staff time to put the concept of the local shopping together, so that we can, it's going to take some time to really coordinate.
Yeah, I also think it's a great idea. Second.
Have a motion and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item L7, Mr. Malee. You wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Paul Maley. I'm the president of the American Postal Workers Union. Speaking on the resolution that the council endorse not reducing the processing ability at the 2000 Vassar Street plant, I'd just like to make a few comments. And I'm not sure exactly what the council has been told, but those 177 jobs will not be lost. Those jobs are going to be outsourced to either West Sacramento or other areas. So the processing, the diminishing of the processing is just going to be sent to California. But there's some other allied businesses that the council needs to worry about too. I've been working and talking and discussing this with the other mailers in the Reno area. And it will have a major impact, like Nevada Presort. They're saying if they change the processing center, they reduce the ability of that processing center, they're going to probably have to move. If you CSG, they're already looking at going to Las Vegas because it's just be cheaper. But if you just look at Jimmy Bean's Wool the other night on the news, it's a $6 million business. She depends on the processing ability of that plant. And there are a lot of fulfillment houses here in Reno that take advantage of the time difference between the East Coast and the West Coast. For those of you that remembered Home Shopping Network years ago, that was one of their big things. And when they closed that plant, it cost the city of Reno a lot of money. They used to put millions of dollars of postage in each year. But like Jimmy Bean's, for instance, they can make and place an order at 9 p.m. on the East Coast. She can fulfill that order, and it can be mailed out of that plant. If they outsource that work to West Sac, that's not going to happen. So, in addition to the outsourcing that work, we're also looking at 177 good-paying jobs. Some other jobs, Jimmy Bean's Wool, and according to the paper, they have 35 employees. If you go to MRCI in Reno, if you've been to that pre-sort, that's going to have an impact on them. Because if you're going to delay their mail, or you're going to delay that service by 3 or 4 days, then you might as well just enter the mail in at West Sacramento. But most importantly, we got to look at service. The Postal Service has a constitutional obligation to provide economic and reliable service to the rural areas of Nevada. And I thought this meeting was on Friday, so I didn't have a chance to get this stuff prepared. But if you look at the state of Nevada, if they close the Reno processing plant and they close the Elko processing plant, the only postal processing plant we're going to have is in Las Vegas. That puts almost 500 miles between the nearest processing plant. And what we need to do is I'm asking the council to support not the outsourcing of those jobs, keep it here, not just so it's going to help the Reno economy, because there will be a negative impact. The postal employees will probably be upside down on their mortgages also. And so the city's going to have to absorb that. You're going to lose the income of those 177 jobs and the allied businesses. So I ask that you support that the processing ability at the plant stay as it is. The building isn't set up where you can only heat part of it. It's a big old wide open building, so there's no sectional heating. The only thing you're actually going to save is the energy to run the machines that will now be run in California. So we just don't know that, and I just ask that the council support that. And one other thing, most of the mail that comes into that plant, a third of it stays right here in the Reno, Sparks, Carson area. The other third of that mail goes to those rural areas that plant supports, and that plant supports one of the largest rural areas in the nation. If you were to look at the plant consolidation, Nevada is just as big. There's no dots around it. There's just nothing there. And like I say, it's 500 miles to the Nile.
Okay.
So I appreciate your support to that resolution. And thank you very much.
And thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
And one of the things that Paul didn't talk about, the huge economic impact. If you look at Amazon, for example, their major hub, Urban Outfitters, which you guys opened that building, the huge facilities, and as far as economic development, they look at the Postal Service and that processing center, the ability to get that out. We had heard from the airport authority earlier that the Reno airport is very attracted to them for the delivery of mail and cargo. This has some huge implications by not just the postal workers, but as Paul had addressed, the all the companies that work, and I believe, Paul, you didn't address this either, but the cost of bulk mail by not having a processing facility here in Reno goes up. Is that? So 4.5 cents. So those companies that do a lot of bulk mail, I don't know how that would affect a distribution center like Amazon, but the cost of doing bulk mail, even for people running for elected office, the cost of bulk mail, Mr. Mayor, would go up substantially, and all joking aside, for these companies, which I think would have a huge detrimental effect to our region. So I hope we can support this resolution.
Mr. Hazy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I think we should also, for two big reasons. One, we just look at the airport and how it's bringing $27 million or something. If I take 50,000 a year times 177 people, that's $8.8 million every year. That's going to come out of the economy. So we get one thing, but they're taking away something much larger. But maybe we attack this a different route, and he brought it up, is each state should have at least one for each senator. You know, if we only have one in Las Vegas, then we've got nothing else in Nevada to have that. And I don't know how many of these distribution centers are in California. You know, I mean, I don't know how that's even fair to everyone that everything goes to those states and Nevada has one. We're one of the largest states. We should at least have two. And maybe we go on it that way as just the fairness of, they didn't even say we should only have one senator when they first started this country. We should have two. So we should have two distribution centers.
Okay.
The only comment I would
Yes,
have,
Mr.
Mr. Mayor,
Hayes.
based on the testimony, is maybe we could strengthen this resolution to make it very clear that there's going to be a negative impact not only on local businesses but the region. Because if I understand it correctly, I'm surprised Delco is not up in arms over the closing of this facility, and anybody else that would be impacted not just locally but regionally. So that's the only comment I would make, Mr. Mayor, because it's really limited to large mail customers, and I think the resolution needs to state that it's going to have not only reduce mail service standards, but have a negative impact on local businesses in the region.
Yeah, and the cost, I think adding that cost to the bulk mail, I do think we need to strengthen the resolution, and maybe, Paul, you can help staff add some, make it more strength in the resolution.
We can get staff to toughen it up, and then with your authority, then I would sign it. Right. We would do it. Ms. Zadra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I had this very conversation yesterday with our Washington lobbyists, recognizing that the decision that is imminent and in short order about the closure. However, I still believe that that's something that we should, put our team together, our Washington team together for, okay, so what are the ramifications? Get that information out just as quickly as we possibly can, and come up with alternatives. So Carolyn she understood the urgency of it, but also understood there isn't going to be much time to react. But I did put that top on my list with her yesterday.
Mr. Mayor, this needs to be sent, our resolution adoption is important because it's got to go through the comment period, I think, which is due in January. Paul, when I was talking to one of the workers, that's the first round of commenting, isn't it?
Well, part of the public comment is extended until December 16th. At the public meeting, that really wasn't a public meeting because nobody, other than that rally in a newspaper, it was just local residents that were there. There weren't people from Fallon, and there weren't people from the rural areas. But what's important is as we do, public comment is available until the 16th. There was a lady did stand up and say because of the lack of public notice, they wanted to extend it 45 days. But the councilwoman is correct, okay? Part of the process is there's an area, they call it an area mail processing survey. They've done some numbers. There's some pretty fuzzy math. I mean, transporting all that mail to West Sac and back and saving $135,000, you're going to have to show me who that accountant is because maybe you can help me do my taxes. But there is some fuzzy math, but I'm not here to talk about that, okay? Well, but the second process, it is very important that you support this because Mark Amaday, Dean Heller, Harry Reid.
We will get in touch with all those people.
Right, because they do have a lot of say whether that plant closes or stays open. We will. Even if it is said to be closed.
We will get in touch with them.
So based on that, Mr. Mayor, we should probably fix this resolution today so we make sure it gets in during the public comment period. But in addition to that, I'd like this sent to our federal delegation, all of them in the state, letting them know how important this is.
Sure.
And maybe a separate letter in addition to the resolution from you, Mr. Mayor, I think would be helpful.
We will send the resolution out, and with your permission, I would ask Mr. Hashef to take a few minutes to doctor up not doctor up, but to correct the resolution so that it would be good and we could send it back.
Okay.
Okay? You want to give me a motion?
So I'll go ahead and move for the adoption of the resolution with the changes that it affects the whole region, whereas that there would be that additional 4.5 cent cost for the bulk mail distribution center for everyone in northern Nevada, and the effects that it has on, as Paul said, to the local business region, and that we make sure that this gets sent to the public for the public comment period. We make the deadline also our federal delegation.
And add the rural element to that also, that rural component. I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, before passage, that is resolution number 7652, resolution to support continued operations at the U.S. Postal Service's Reno Processing and Distribution Center located at 2000 Vassar Street and the 177 local post office jobs associated with it.
Move for adoption.
Have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new business that's opening up in downtown Reno at 3 o'clock today. So I would like everybody, if you could, go over to the Jones Vargas building for this little opening that they're going to have and welcome this company to town. They're starting off with about 180 employees. They think there'll be about 300 by next summer. If we can get through this, let's have the good deeds next week. Okay? Now let's go down to the fire protection.
Do you want to do E1, B1, Mr. Mayor?
Which one?
E1, B1, you've got staff sitting right there waiting.
Okay, let's go. Come on. Yeah, I forgot about them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Michael Chomp, Business Relations Manager for the City of Reno. I brought just an I don't know if we can get the overhead, but to answer Councilman Straz's question, the closest residence looks like it's about 400 feet.
County, Mike, so we can just cut to the chase.
This is in the sphere of influence, so the zoning was the same. It's mixed use, 24-hour allowable hours.
So cabaret would be allowed in the county, or
Yes.
the county 24 hours as well?
Yes, and the business is located right here. It's on an 8-acre parcel.
Can't say that.
There's a barn to the southwest here, and then there's residential, I think, up in this area up here. There's RV sales or mobile home sales up here fronting Virginia Street. And I know that's kind of rough, that's kind of difficult to see.
As long as it's consistent when that was my concern, that we're bringing under MU. I didn't realize MU allowed 24-hour cabaret anywhere in the city.
Yeah, and I think Claudia wants to add to that. I also wanted to answer Councilwoman Zadra's question about the Grove, which is community commercial. So they are not zoned 24-hour. They're zoned 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. because they front Foothill Drive.
So can we do that for this one then, based on?
Or go to 2 in the morning?
The hours of their hours are going to be until 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. on Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
Then let's just change that as part of the license approval.
Claudia Hansen, Planning and Engineering Manager. Just for the record, if this was a new business just opening up in the city in this area, it would require the special use permit for hours between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. It's only exempt if it's adjacent to Virginia Street and not adjacent to residential. This one is adjacent to Virginia, but it is adjacent to residential. So if it was a new business, it would trigger that special use permit. But bringing it in from the county, we can keep what was approved at the county, which would be the 2 a.m.
Oh, that was my question. Yeah. So the county cut it off till at 2
a.m.
a.m.
That's what Mr. Chomp just said.
Yes.
Okay, then that's what I want to make sure, and I think you guys got to review these carefully when they come in. I'm concerned this is like the third or fourth one, but I think we should limit it to 2 a.m. on the approval for the cabaret.
Okay.
That'd be my motion, Mr. Mayor. and move
Okay,
it
because
along.
there's a school about a quarter of a mile away from this
Yeah,
place
I mean,
also.
To have
Have a motion, do I have a
24-hour
second?
Open past 2 a.m.?
They might be. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Item M2.
Do we have anything new?
Fire protection.
I think there's just a quick update, I think, and the mayor sent out.
For the record, Mike Hernandez, Reno Fire Chief. I've got a short presentation I can forego, or, well, we'll go ahead and knock it out. We have met twice with the county in the last 14 days. They are scheduled to meet. I just received the County Board of Fire Commissioners, Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District agenda.
Mr. Mayor, maybe we should come back for this and do the event. I think we can get through the redevelopment, but
Well, they're having the grand opening at 3 o'clock, and I'd really like to show some strength by going over there, as many of us as can, do the grand opening with them, then come back here.
Yeah, I don't want to shortchange this, Mr. Mayor.
yeah.
No, I don't want to shortchange. So with y'all's permission, I'd like to go, because I know the redevelopment, I know Mr. Scott's been sitting here for redevelopment, but he just couldn't go with us. Let's
But
go
I
into
think we
recess.
can do that. I think we can do redevelopment, because B1, they've asked for a continuance. Mr. Pawnee asked for a continuance on that side. Staff's ready to go, but staff is telling me, so I think we can just move to continue item B1 till the next meeting, Mr. Mayor. So we don't have staff sitting here on redevelopment.
Okay, we'll postpone this. Does that mess up anybody if we postpone this one?
Recess right now.
I want to go into recess now. And we're going into recess. Huh? Now we'll open redevelopment. Call the roll, please.
Here. Jeff Guston. Zandra. Ayazi. Sferrazza.
Here.
Kashal.
I have no comment cards.
George.
Public comment? Yes, I'm here. Approval of the agenda? Have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimous. Approval of minutes of October 14, November 9. Have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Item B1 has been requested to pull.
Move to continue till next meeting.
Okay. Have a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Appointments to the Redevelopment Agency Advisory Board.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to reappoint Winnie Dowling and Mike Steedman.
Second?
Have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. Motion carries unanimously. Any identification of future agenda items?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'm not sure where to put this. I'm going to put this here. The Santa Crawl is this weekend, and last year we had complaints about public urination and all that, and I don't know if we put out any Santa huts or porta potties or whatever. I think we should look at doing that. There's nobody in charge of the Santa Crawl, so it's just, if we could do something for Saturday, put some in, like in the West Street Plaza, maybe some on the train trench, I mean, the people downtown have a major problem with that right now.
Why don't we just put a couple more police in and arrest them for never mind, I'm sorry, it's the Christmas season.
Downtown, there's just not enough facilities for these people.
Okay, all right,
So that was it.
okay. That's a motion, does anybody want to? No, it's not a motion, okay. Item C1,
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I think this could come back
Yeah.
to us, but I see here, I still want the SAVE officers or police department, see if we can have a shell there at the RTC site.
also, I got a request today, I'll send all of you a copy of a letter from the University Art Department wanting to look at opening up an art studio or a gallery in one of those. That's something Councilman Azzi's been working on. So let's bring that back at our next meeting, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mr. Mayor?
and potential funding sources as well.
Yes.
To do that, because I think to have the police down there with a shell, I mean, they already have a lot of the hookups, Mr.
Right.
Mayor, for the technology, but I don't know how much it's costing us to keep that fence there, and it looks like,
Looks
doesn't
like
look so
hell.
nice.
we'll work at getting rid of it, and we'll bring this back at the next meeting and discuss it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing, though, is that whatever we put there's got to have some sort of 24-hour presence, or I think you're going to have homeless camping out there.
I think we'll have to have security there 24.
That's what I'm saying, if we could put the police, the police there on one shell and the university, the arts thing, I think it'd be a
I agree we need
good
to clean it up.
complement.
I'm just saying that it's going to need 24-hour, we're going to create a bigger problem.
I think
Well,
the
then
option,
maybe when they come back, they can look into what 24-hour security
well, I
would
think
cost.
what just the option would be is maybe not 24 hour, but go, I don't even know who RTC uses, a block away, and see what they would charge us to come just maybe even at night and patrol that area and just, be a block away and be part of the RTC route. That might be less expensive for us.
Yeah, somehow. I mean, just somehow we've got to be able to
Absolutely.
police that 24 hours somehow.
All right. Chair will entertain, no public comment cards.
Move to adjourn.
Have a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those that oppose, no. The Reno City Council being recessed for the next 45 minutes. Yes.
How long will it take the chief we have 20 minutes to be over there, right?
But
I think we could do this in 10
the
minutes.
chief's not going to do this in 5 minutes.
10?
With all the well, he can, but the questions you're going to ask are going to take.
Let's do that.
Yes, Chief.
I believe we can knock it out, sir.
Okay, let's
If you
do
can knock it out with questions, let's let her rip. Come back later. Yes.
For the record, Mike Hernandez, Reno Fire Chief. This is an update on the recent activity for the last 14 days with respect to our negotiations and discussions with the county with respect to deconsolidation. Currently, as directed by the city manager and directed by council, we've worked on a website to include frequently asked questions. We're currently notifying businesses, community leaders, and we are working with our NABs, specifically with letters and notifications to our NABs with respect to how the deconsolidation is going to affect specific neighborhoods. We do currently have a meeting scheduled with the Collin Ranch Homeowners Association in January. Current issues, staff has developed a Plan B with respect to cost methodology should the county approach the city with an extension. It basically entails a fair and equitable model that we had been negotiating for the past 12 months. With respect to separation costs with existing employees, the county has not been amenable to having that discussion. We have, with respect to our staff, the city of Reno has notified Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District that we really need to know something on or before February 15th with respect to number of employees that are going over, what their offers are going to be, et cetera. With respect to what the county has been doing, the county did open up an online hiring process. It didn't really speak to the existing Truckee Meadows employees or lateral transfers. To our knowledge and to date, there has not been an offer extended to existing Truckee Meadows employees that did come over during the consolidation, nor has a system of lateral transfers been offered or developed. With respect to Station 14, there has been no movement in our discussions regarding a lease or a purchase. On the issue of automatic aid, at the city manager's direction, we will negotiate or have discussions with the county to provide what we currently offer our existing neighbors, Sparks, Carson, et cetera, which is a single engine response, provided that those agencies do deliver an in-kind return of service, and that is a single engine response as well. We did have a discussion with the manager with respect to primary response, and with respect to primary response, we looked at several studies. Specifically the county study, the Diamante study, which was a standards of cover report that the county entered into. The Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District does not meet the 1.5 mile station location criteria, but has done an acceptable job of locating stations within the agreement, the interlocal agreement. Within that study, there's also the criteria with respect to the first unit should arrive within 8 minutes. The study goes on to discuss the full effective response force. For council's recollection, the full effective response is the total number of fire units that arrive on scene to mitigate a typical emergency, such as a single-family structure, a multi-family structure. For a single-family structure, their report calls for 13 firefighters to be assembled within 10 minutes. We feel that the Truckee Meadows islands that we have identified in the past do not meet that primary response criteria. At the direction of the city manager, he has consistently held a position that what we do must be equitable for the citizens of Reno. With respect to Hidden Valley, that district currently in 2010 had 339 calls for service. They have an assessed value of $97 million. Truckee Meadows currently receives about $450,000 in taxable revenue specific to fire protection. The Collin Ranch area, again, an assessed value of $68 million. Truckee Meadows currently receives around $320,000 specific taxable revenue for fire service. In 2010, they had about 170 calls for service. The Windy Hills, the Leslie Lane area, again, about $415 million. Truckee Meadows receives $1.9 million in assessed revenue specific to fire protection for that area. That specific area is a little broader. They had over 1,000 calls for service last year. So that the council has an idea of the current locations of the Truckee Meadows stations. They've got 4 in the north. They've got 1 in West Washoe Valley. And, of course, they've got the hybrid station, what I call the hybrid station. It's Station 14 in the Walmart, which is not shown on this map. There you have the Collin Ranch Island, the Windy Hill, the Hidden Valley Island, and then you have the Windy Hills, the Leslie Lane Island that, as you can see, are not very accessible to primary response by the Truckee Meadows existing fire stations. With respect to the Collin Ranch area, you've got 3 fire stations that are in close proximity: the Mayan Station, the Mayberry Station, and the station on Moana. And of course, to the far left, the Blue Star, that would be the Sierra Fire Protection District, or the Verdi Station, which the county has indicated that they would utilize. But again, you can see where we could reasonably assemble an effective firefighting force within a certain criteria that we would meet, that would also meet the standards of cover report. Again, here you have a map that shows the Hidden Valley area. You've got Station 21, Station 6, Station 14, and Station 5 that would respond into that area. Towards the very top, you've got 2 of the 4 Truckee Meadows stations, 1 in Sun Valley, 1 off of Pyramid Lane. You can see that there's considerable distance that the county would have to cover just to be a first responder into that area and to provide what we would call primary response. And lastly, we have the Windy Hills, the Leslie Lane area. Again, you've got Station 3 and 5, Moana, and Mayberry, Station 6, and Station 14, which is the Walmart station, that would respond into that area and provide primary coverage. The little green cross right there on the Arrow Creek Parkway, that is the proposed Arrow Creek Sierra Fire Protection District station that's currently being constructed. That would have some depth of coverage into the Windy Hill, the Leslie Lane area. However, it would not be able to reach the northern border of that particular island. In summary, City Council voted at the last meeting to provide direct primary service based on an assessed value, and I believe it was up to 90%. Currently, the county has on its agenda, and again, I just received this yesterday evening. There are some items that speak to some of the issues we've just covered. They're going to be discussing the formation of a regional fire task force to discuss regionalization. They are going to be discussing and taking action on incorporating the Sierra Fire Protection District into the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. They will be, and they do have item 7, which is discussion and possible direction to staff regarding the proposal of cooperative services. This is staff's language for an automatic aid agreement. Item 10 is the role of the Joint Fire Advisory Board and its members. And item 12 speaks to laterals and giving staff the authority to actually make offers to existing Truckee Meadows employees. So I anticipate next week's meeting having a full and fairly robust report to give council. I'd like to close with just one slide. As I was reviewing the Diamante report, the very last page of the report had this comment: from a purely operational standpoint, the interlocal agreement has been a great benefit to the citizens of the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. The combination of the Reno Fire Department and the Truckee Meadows career staff and the utilization of volunteer fire departments within the system create a well-versed, robust fire and life safety system. Just felt it was kind of ironic that we're taking it apart. Take questions.
I'd like a copy of that last statement. It'll be in my next letter. Yes, Mr. Azzi.
Who paid for the Diamante study?
That was a county, sir.
Oh, the county paid for that. And in the Diamante study, I've got it here, it also says what their effective response force would be. And that's what I think we're getting to when you talk about primary response areas. In this own Diamante study, it says they should have a minimum of 13 personnel within 10 minutes. So I think it's up to the county to tell us where they think they can provide that level of service, and where they can't, that's where they're relying on us to be primary responders. And that's the difference between mutual aid and automatic aid, is they want us, and they've said so publicly on many occasions, including in Mr. Butternutz's letter, that they want us to continue to provide service as we have in the past. So I think that we have to, for free. And as they're getting out of this for financial reasons, we have to look at our financial bottom line too.
That's right.
And I think we're giving the residents enough time to tell them we can't provide primary response for free in these areas, particularly when you're paying taxes for fire service. That's the worst part about this, is there's residents out there paying their taxes for fire service, and they're not going to get it from who they're paying the taxes to.
No. And if you watch this morning's news, a similar thing went back, I think it was in Kentucky.
Another one, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Yeah, it was Kentucky again.
It was in Kentucky a second time that a fire went in, and because somebody hadn't paid their tax, they sat and watched the house burn down. And I don't think that'll ever happen here, but that's how disgusting it could get. And with what the county has put up, it's ridiculous. People that I know that live in Collin Ranch and in Hidden Valley have no clue what's going on and what they're doing. They're wanting us to be the primary care, but they want to take the tax for it. So they've got to work with us and stuff. And I've given you all a copy of a letter that I've sent to the newspaper. I hope it'll be in Sunday's paper. But now, instead of me mouthing off, let's go into recess. Let's go welcome some business.
We could be, with public comment, then we could adjourn, Mr. Mayor. We don't have to come back.
Well, we need to come back because we've got some legal counsel here that wants to meet with us about some.
But not part of the meeting.
No, it's not part of it. So I will take a motion to adjourn. Any public comment? No, they don't have any. Good. Okay. All in favor say aye.
We'll get you there.
Those opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously.